How are you guys? Doesn't that list make me sound like I'm busy? Seriously, this is all I'm doing today. I work half days, that's it. So I'm not as busy as that list makes me sound. You guys, we're here to talk about you, not to talk about me. If you do have questions about me, we could do that at some point. If anyone wants to know why somebody would be silly enough to get on a treadmill for 48 hours and not get off that treadmill until you broke a world record, I have a really fun story about that later. Let's talk about you guys, but before we start, I want you to take notes today if you want to remember stuff. We have about 78% higher chance of remembering something if we write it down. If you don't want to write it down because you can't read your own handwriting, that's a joke that's personal between me and my wife. I've got a PDF coming if Jennifer has your email address. If she does not, you will not get the PDF. So make sure she's got your email address. I'm not going to send it to you because I don't like spamming people with stuff. So make sure Jennifer's got your email address. You will get a PDF of everything we talk about. It is not the slideshow. It is a readable PDF. It reads more like a little mini book. It's 24 pages of awesome stuff that I put together for you. Is that fair? Okay, we're going to be together for the next 7.5 hours with no break. So hang in there. The doors are locked. So good luck to us all. Let's get started with what's going on here. You guys, I like to start with congratulations when I deal with humans in this country, or really anywhere where I'm speaking, because I've been to India, I've been to Peru, I've been all over Europe. It's the same. If you're in a room with me, you win. You did it because nature's probably not going to kill you today. And I like to talk about nature because she's got some rules that are immutable. You cannot defy nature's rules. She wins every time. She's been doing this for a long, long time before we got here, and she'll be doing this for a long, long time after we're gone. So I like to say congratulations because you are not going to die of the #1 cause of death in undeveloped countries. Does anyone know? This is very interactive here, you guys. Who knows what the #1 cause of death in undeveloped nations is? You got to say it loud. That is #2. Unfiltered water is the #2 cause of death in undeveloped nations. That is in the top 10, but not in the first one. #1, you guys ready? Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes still kill millions of individuals globally, not here. I know you have mosquitoes here, but they're not going to kill you if they bite you. So we did, you guys, we did it. We have food. I don't know if you realize this, but that food back there is free. I didn't pay for it at all, and I can eat whenever I want to. That's amazing, knowing that 8 million human beings are going to starve to death this year. I walk into situations where there's free food everywhere, and we've got people starving to death. You guys, if you don't look at this as a gift, I don't know how we're looking at this. You win. You won the lottery. Congratulations for being here. Okay? Now, I like to look at the machine that I woke up in as a gift, and I'm going to use it as such. But how long is this machine supposed to last? That's a really, really pointed question. Normally, I had a different slideshow for you guys because I didn't know I was going to speak for a full 3.5 days. No, I'm just kidding. 3.5 hours. But I usually put a picture of my mom and dad up behind me, and then I get a little teary-eyed, even though they've been off this planet for a long, long time. But how long are we supposed to last? Does anyone know how long humans are supposed to live by design? That self-healing machine that you woke up in is supposed to last about how long? You guys just sit and ponder that for a second, because I usually hear 78.8 from the insurance groups, because that's how long the average human in the United States lasts, is 78.8 when we combine men and women. That is not how long we're supposed to last. And if you go back to some scientists, and I like to look at the scientists studying this kind of thing and say, all right, what are they saying? If I look at Liz Blackburn's work, if you don't know Elizabeth Blackburn, she's the person who discovered these little telomeres on the end of your DNA chain that are pictured up here. She's telling us we should live an average age of 115 as a species, all humans. Now, that's important to know, and she's not just guessing. She won a Nobel Prize in medicine for discovering this little bit of your DNA, saying, hey, this is, based on this discovery, humans should live to about 115. David Sinclair at Harvard, been studying human longevity for over 30 years is saying humans should live to about 115 to 120. Walter Longo at the Salk Institute in Southern California is telling us humans should live to about 115 to 120. So there's consensus on both coasts from a bunch of different scientists, whether you look at biologists or geneticists, telling us that that means you guys too, should live to about 115. Now, I don't want you going out like my mom. I don't want you living to 115 if you're going to live to 115 like my mother. My mother died of lymphoma at 74, but the last 9 years of her life, she didn't recognize her family because of the Alzheimer's. The last 5 years of her life, she couldn't walk because of the arthritis. It had crippled both of her ankles. She also had liver failure, kidney failure, type 2 diabetes, dementia, and she had cardiorespiratory issues. My mom was dying of 7 diseases at the same time. Can you imagine if she lived 40 years like that? I don't think that's the way we're supposed to be living. My wish for you, when you guys leave here, is that you take some notes and you do something different that extends your life a little bit, right? Not 78, but maybe closer to 115 or even 100. I'll take 100 all day long. I have 76 up there because this is very interesting. If I go back 100 years in this country, back to the early 1900s, we have this misconception that, well, everyone in the early 1900s died at 40. That's what we think. We think that's a real thing still. And we didn't. As a matter of fact, if you made it past age 10, you just had to make it past childhood in the United States 100 years ago, you lived about 76 years. You just take a look at those two numbers, you guys. Take a look at what we've done in 100 years. If I took this thing back 100 years from now, if I just went back with this, do you think they'd burn me as a witch? Probably. This is amazing, and we've done this in 100 years. We're only living 2 years longer than our ancestors did 3 generations ago, and that makes me sad when scientists are telling us we're missing 30 to 40 healthy years of life. Something's wrong. You guys, we're not doing well. Here are the top 3 causes of death in the United States. If you're ready, you guys probably already know these. What's number 1? Just shout it. Heart disease. Cardiovascular disease is number 1. What's number 2? Say it. Cancer. See, we already know this. Number 3 is what the CDC calls unintentional accidents. I like that because it's kind of obscure. It's falling off of a ladder. It's getting hit in the head with a hammer. But is it? Is that what's really doing it? Is it really hammers and ladders? Let's parse that information out. If you guys go to the CDC chart and you want to grab some information from category number 3, you'll find that the true 3rd leading cause of death stuck in that category is medical errors. 250,000 to 440,000 Americans a year die of medical errors and prescription drug overdoses. Not non-prescription drugs, prescription drugs. The number 3 cause of death in this country, and I love them to death, is the doctor accidentally making a mistake or prescribing too many drugs or us taking those drugs incorrectly and dying because of it. You guys, I came out of pharmaceuticals. Some of the stuff that you will never read in my bio, I spent a great deal of time with GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals. They taught me human physiology and got me reinterested in the sciences of how the human body works. But I want you to understand something. I left that industry because I've never gone in my time there to a "we cured this disease finally" conference. Every single year I would go to sales conferences, and that made me sad. Because shouldn't we be getting rid of some of this stuff? Guys, I don't know about you guys, but whose job is it to not get heart disease? Is it my job or is that somebody else's job for me? Is it my job to make sure I protect myself from some of the stuff going on here? Number 4 cause of death in this country is driving. You guys all did that to get here. That's the number 4 cause of death. I encourage you, if you don't want to die like that, let's put Facebook down. Just a little bit while we're driving, maybe? Do you think that's probably a good idea? I think so. Come drive with me in Minnesota, worst drivers in the country. I live in Minneapolis, you guys, the worst drivers in the country, and I know this because I rent cars all over the country. I do 125 events like this a year. I'm always driving someone else's car in someone else's city. The worst drivers ever are in Minnesota, and almost every single one of them is looking down at something and not up here. It's incredible to me that we're still doing that. So we can get rid of a lot of these diseases. You guys, here's my problem. We're stuck. The United States is stuck. Maybe it's your employees, maybe it's people that you know, maybe it's not you because you showed up today. You're already different, right? Where's the rest of everyone? Normal people don't show up to stuff like this. You're already above that. But I want you to picture something. We're screaming for the government to come save us, for the doctors to come save us, for the insurance company to come save us. We're screaming for someone to do something. The house is burning down. We're mad at the fire department for not showing up, and we're the one holding the match. That's sad to me. How about we take care of our machine and realize that we have a lot more control over this vessel than we have been told. We have been told that it's not your fault, it happens to everyone, good luck to you, you're all going to die at some point at 78-ish. And that is wholly untrue. And at the minute we start accepting that and take our power back, we have to realize that with that power, you guys, I'm a nerd. I'm the nerdy kid in school. I just shaved my head and put some tattoos on to fool you. I'm still a nerdy kid. Okay? With great power comes what? You guys know that's Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, right? That's not some historian. That is a Marvel Comics quote. With great power comes great responsibility. And I don't think a lot of us want that responsibility because, damn it, we're too busy. How about we look in the mirror and start taking that responsibility because you owe it not only to yourself, but to your family or your community or your church or your whatever. This thing is a gift for me to use to do good for others. And if it's not healthy, I can't do good. This thing needs to be beyond healthy. It needs to be optimized. It needs to be amazing. It needs to be an example for my children. My kids are 22 and 25. Guys, I'm 51 years old, and I haven't even started life yet. I'm still learning. I'm still getting to know what this thing is capable of doing, and I'm 51. I've got 79 more years in this body. If you guys don't believe that I'm going to live to 130, come with me. Let me show you something. You got to hang out with me for 79 years, though. I will not die like this. My father died of lung cancer at 54. I watched him suffocate to death in the hospital. My dad's cancer was preventable. He was a 2-pack-a-day smoker and a raging alcoholic. As my mom's cancer was preventable, her oncologist said there's no reason she should have had lymphoma at 74. My mom drank 2 liters of soda a day, ate French fries every day of her life, never exercised, never thought about taking care of her machine. She died at 74 in a nursing home alone, suffocating because of the lymphoma. Both of my parents suffocated to death from cancers which were preventable. And I don't know if we realize this, but the majority of cancers in the United States are not genetic. They're not handed to you because you had poor parents, because they gave you garbage DNA. Most cancers in this country are preventable cancers that happen from 30 years of not paying attention. Bruce and I were talking a little bit earlier before you guys got into the room, and I said all we have to do really is just pay a little bit of attention and know that we're worth it and do something a little bit better. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'll lighten this up, I promise you guys. This is a little heavy to start out. I usually tell people I'm going to tell you you're going to die. All right, that already sucks. I'm going to tell you how you're going to die if you stay average. That's never good news. And I'm going to call you lazy, because you are. Let's face it, right? You guys, I'm not going to get into the slides yet because I want you to realize what the heck you woke up in this morning. Why don't you guys just take a look at this thing? Look down at your machine. How do you think that camouflage is going to work outside? You guys know that that's where we came from, right? We came from out there. We haven't always had buildings. Do we all know that? Our ancestors, spent the majority of their time in a magical, mystical place called outside. It turns out they had to because, are you ready for this? That's where all the food is. Outside. We were out there all day in our past, and now we're stuck in buildings all day. The average American, statistically speaking, spends 5 hours a week outdoors, probably on Saturday or Sunday. That's it. That's statistics. Nielsen says that the average American watches 5 hours of television a day. I think we just flip those two and we're all better off. I would like to see that. That would be amazing for me. I don't think it's going to happen, though, because you're an animal, and we've forgotten this. And what happens to animals when there's always food, and they never have to move? As you, like any other animal, have two biological imperatives. Nature is driving you to do two things and two things only. Are you guys ready for this very short list of two things? Because once you check both these boxes, it's nap time. All animals have the same drive. Priority number one, you guys ready? This is the most fun thing I can talk about. Make new animals. That's the first priority. Priority number two, eat enough food so you can make new animals. That's it. Once you've checked both of those boxes, lay down and don't move. And don't we live in a place where if we have a willing partner, we can do those things pretty much whenever we want to? I met a guy the other day that has 6 kids. He does that a lot more than most people, doesn't he? 6 kids. Now, that's not a big deal if we go back to 1920. My grandfather had 16 children. My mother is one of 16. Okay, so they were indoors a lot more than most. But that's it, you guys. It's just check the boxes, and then it's nap time. It's lazy time. Ask your dog. Take a look at your animals that you've domesticated and moved into the cage with you. Your dog will tell you, if you just watch them closely enough, eat and then lay down. It's not eat and then go play. It's eat and then lay down. That's humans. We need to change some stuff. We need to reorganize some thoughts in our head and realize we are just like any other animal. My whole goal to talk to you guys right up until about 11:30 today is how we can do this better. We're going to talk about 6 things that you can do, that you can actually take action on right now today to live a longer, better, healthier life with less disease. I don't want to be a doctor. I want you to never have to see a doctor except to run the diagnostic tests on your machine to make sure you're doing the inputs correctly. Okay, I was talking earlier today. I'm going to do this really slow for you guys so you can understand this. If you fix the inputs, this self-healing machine will fix the output without you worrying about it. You just have to fix the input. So stop focusing on what you weigh and start focusing on stuff you're doing, and the weight takes care of itself. This machine is self-healing. It needs the right tools to self-heal. And a lot of times we don't give it the right tools, and then we wonder why it breaks. So picture this, 110 years of life. That should be our goal. Healthy. Dying like Betty White. Oh my God, who dies like that anymore? Do you know how Betty White died? Do you know what she died of? Betty White died of old age. Good luck finding that on an actuarial table of how people die in this country, because it doesn't happen. We don't die of old age anymore, and we need to. My goal for you is that you're holding your great-great-granddaughter in your arms, having had the best day ever, and you take a nap and never wake up. That's how we should all be going, not suffocating to death in the hospital like my father did. That's not right. We deserve better, and it's 2022, folks. We have all the technology to keep us together way longer than we did 100 years ago, and we're not doing so hot. So your goal, take care of your machine and influence those around you to take care of their machine, and then we all get better together. We'll talk about 6 things, and you'll tell me that you can't do this. And when you say that, you're right. I can't do this because I don't have enough what? See how that works? You guys all know the answers. It's like you got the workbook already. You don't have enough time. Here's how the brain works, folks. If you have kids at home, time to teach them a lesson as well. 88% of the human brain does not know what reality is. 88% of the human brain has no clue what's real and what's not. It believes whatever you tell it. That's why placebo effect works. We're going to talk about that. But it's because your brain doesn't know and can believe a lie. So when I say I can't, no matter what I do after that statement, I will not be able to not do that thing because I can't. I've already told myself that, and my brain will not let me live in incongruity. Rather than saying I can't do this because I don't have enough time, what you need to say is, look at that silly bald guy on stage. If he can do it, I can do it. That's how I broke a world record. I want you guys to realize this. I was a runner for 3 months when I broke a world record in running. And I did it because I looked over at Paul in England, who had broken a world record on a treadmill, and I said, I could do that. And I said that because Paul looked kind of like me. I thought, well, if Paul can do it, I can do it. It turns out to break a world record on a treadmill, you guys, I'm going to give you the secret if you want to do this right now. It's just left foot in front of your right foot, and then you just repeat that process over and over and over and over and over and over again, faster than Paul. That was it. So if Paul can do it, I can do it. If Dan can do it, you can do it. I need 4 hours of your week. That's it. That's all I need. 4 hours. Costs no money. The actions we take to be healthy cost no money. That's the other excuse I get, is it's too expensive to be healthy. I'm like, what are you doing? It's too expensive to sleep. It's too expensive to eat vegetables instead of whatever else you might be eating. It's not too expensive to do anything. We just need to tweak a couple of things that you might already be doing. I meet people in other countries. When we go to other countries, we like to go to places where people are living closer to nature. In the Sacred Valley of Peru, they've been mining salt the same way they've been mining salt for 6,000 years. And the people we meet in the villages there have no access to modern medicine at all. And they live just as long as Americans on a budget of $50 a month. So if they can do it, you can do it. We have way better technology. Gosh, if you have one of these things and a car, you're in the richest 2% of the world's population, and we're still making excuses about we can't afford it? That's crazy to me. This and a car. Congratulations, you guys win. You're in the richest 2%. I read this statistic just 2 days ago that 48% of the population of the planet doesn't have indoor plumbing. 48% of 7.6 billion don't have access to indoor plumbing. And I live in a place where the water is so safe, I could drink out of the toilet and not die. I do not recommend this. That's disgusting, but you could. It's not going to kill you. Guys, we did it. Stop with the excuses. We should be doing way better. And then when we're doing way better, we can teach other people how simple it might be. Here's our list. We're going to go in order. We're going to go in order because that thing over there on the left-hand side of your screen is impossible to deal with for most people and drives sleep and nutrition and hydration and exercise to never happen at all. We're going to get rid of stress today instead of manage it. We're going to talk about sleep. Sleep is the #2 cause of weight gain in this country. If you are trying to lose weight, if you love your body and you're like, wait a minute, I'm carrying too much fuel, I better get rid of some of this fuel, it's going to hurt if I keep it on, then we're just going to go to bed a little bit better. Easy, right? Nobody's talking about that in my industry because it's not profitable to tell you to stay in bed for a couple more hours. We're going to drink water, which is, you guys, I have a slogan for water. I made this up. I don't know if I can sell it. Tell me how I did. It's the official beverage of every animal on the planet. And yet we only drink in this country 16 ounces a day. That's so sad to me. We're going to talk about the food that you eat, not as fuel. I'm so sick of my industry saying, food is fuel, you got to fuel your body. Hey, you got to fuel your car too, but if the gas tank's full, it's pretty stupid to put fuel in, right? Guys, if you're sitting there with a full gas tank, you don't need to put fuel in. You need to put some good raw materials in there, but you don't need the fuel. So we got to start changing this discussion because French fries are fuel, but there's no raw materials at all in French fries. You can't build a new kid with French fries. Stop lying about the fuel conversation in your own head and start asking yourself, well, how do I make a new human body? I need a whole bunch of raw materials. Do you guys realize you're going to make 75 billion cells today? Like, that is a stupid, complicated machine. It's going to make 75 billion cells, and we're giving it French fries and wondering why it's broken. You can't make humans with French fries. Doesn't work that way. Tons of fuel, though. So if you're consuming too much fuel, plan on storing some of it for later. The problem is there's never later. We're always just storing and storing and storing. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what exercise means in nature, and I'll give you a hint. That's how we get our food. If you were to go outside right now, you can prove that one. I always tell people, I have a laboratory. It's a giant laboratory. It's called Outside. Let's go prove some of these things outside and see if they're right. Go sit underneath a tree at lunch today and see if something brings you food. You'll find out very quickly that when you sit down in nature, nothing brings you food. You have to get up and go get it yourself. And that's how we're going to look at exercise in the cages that we live in. If we don't move, we don't eat. And now we call that intermittent fasting. We'll talk about that. But that was called humans outside before refrigeration. And now we call it a diet fad. It's not a diet fad, you guys. It's how we're built. And then this weird concept of anti-fragility. This is a concept, that word anti-fragile is Nassim Taleb's word. He wrote a book entitled Anti-Fragile. If you guys aren't familiar with Nassim Taleb, you'll see a couple of his books on the suggested reading list that you'll all get. Did I tell you about the reading list? You're going to get a suggested reading list. I read about 100 books a year, and before you go, oh my God, that's a lot, realize that I also sit on a lot of airplanes, and I've read or I've seen the movies twice, and I don't fly the plane. I sit back in seat 4 Delta, right? So I don't have to do anything. Just sit down, go 580 miles an hour, and magically show up someplace. And if you've seen all the movies and you don't drink professionally, you'll find out that it gets really boring on airplanes unless you're doing something. So I read. The suggested reading list will come along with a program guide. Nassim Taleb has a couple of books on that reading list that are fascinating. They're books on business, but I like this concept. Anti-fragile means this. The system is fragile, but not really. Your muscles are fragile, but not really. If you want bigger bicep muscles, what do you have to do? This is where you guys talk. You have to pick heavy stuff up, right? You have to work out. And by picking up something heavy with my biceps, it tears the fiber, shreds it, and then my fiber grows back bigger and stronger. I keep doing that, and all of a sudden I have bigger muscles, stronger muscles. You ever meet the guy with a torn bicep muscle because he picked up something too heavy? It's a fragile system, but not really. We're going to talk about how all systems in humans are like that. Some chaos sparks growth. Let's think about that right now. How do I get my bones to be denser? Other than make sure I get calcium in my diet, which, by the way, comes from leafy green vegetables, not milk. Leafy green vegetables have calcium. How do I get my bones denser? Well, I take my skeleton and I just do this. Maybe not on this stage, it's bouncy, but I just jar it against gravity. So I go for a run or I pick up heavy stuff and then my skeleton gets denser because of that force. If I do that too much, I can break the skeleton. So my skeleton works that way, my muscles work that way, my immune system works that way. All systems in humans work that way. Heck, your relationships work that way. Some chaos provides strength. No chaos is fine, but some chaos provides strength. Your spirituality works that way too, if you guys haven't figured this out. Learning new things works that way. Here's a rule for your kids, if you have them. Growth hurts. Always. Doesn't matter what's growing, growth hurts. How many of you in your business have found out that growth hurts? Especially when businesses reach about 100 people, that tipping point of human brains being able to handle those relationships, that growth really hurts. That's how it works. We're going to talk about that anti-fragile concept and what that means for you to be healthier. It's a concept that I call killing the weak, but people get mad at me because they think I'm talking about in their neighborhood. I'm talking about in your body. You got to kill the weak in your body. Okay? Are you guys ready? Should we do this list? Should we do that third excuse first? Yeah, but Dan, obesity runs in my family. When somebody says obesity runs in my family, I look them square in the eyes, I calm them down, and I say, look, it's because nobody runs in your family. That's the problem. Okay, how many diseases are really genetic? And if we're believing that they're genetic diseases, have we done the test? Do you realize it's 2022 and we don't have to ask about your family history of diabetes? We can go check to see if you have genetic predispositions towards diabetes by doing a simple DNA test. Costs less than $200. We can fully map every bit of your DNA that mom and dad gave you. That is unchangeable DNA. The only way to change your DNA is to go back and change your parents. And if you figure that out, I want to make an investment in whatever you got going on. Okay? Either that or you're in Colorado and you're smoking that really good weed. Because like, I don't know what you got going on, but you can't go back and change your parents. So you're not going to change your DNA. Wouldn't it be nice to get a map of what you're made of so you can stop using that excuse? I was told my whole life heart disease runs in the family. I got my DNA test back. No heart disease predispositions in my DNA. Doesn't mean I'm not going to get heart disease. It means it's not running in my family. It didn't run in my DNA. Guys, I like that because I was told the same thing about Alzheimer's and cancer. And guess what? I have no genetic predispositions towards Alzheimer's or cancer. I can walk around and go, that stuff didn't run in my family. It ran in my family's environment. And that's powerful knowledge to walk away from. Change the environment, change your future. That's how this works. DNA is responsible for about 10% of modern diseases. Genetic diseases are about 10% of what humans are dying from in this country. The other 90% are environmental diseases. They're diseases of your daily environment and your daily actions. That is power to know that right now, because heart disease and Alzheimer's stopped with my parents. I will not have those diseases because I control my environment. Does everyone else in here control their environment? Is everyone over 18 years old? Everyone controls their own damn environment. It's not up to him what I'm going to do today. It's up to me. Guys, that's power, and that's beautiful, but what sucks about that is if I'm trying to sell you something, I can't because you have all the power. So I'm going to tell you the opposite, and I'm going to lie to you so that I can sell you stuff. Make sure you understand that this machine is perfectly designed to live to 110 years if I keep good inputs, and those are up to my control. Sometimes we have genetic weirdness. Let's go test for it. I like that. Because then I can, if I have predispositions towards a disease, I'm going to lean hard the other direction. I met a gal the other day, just 2 days ago, that had breast cancer. Had to have one of her breasts removed. She's 66 years old. And she said, I found out after the fact that I have genetic cancer, that it was in my DNA the entire time. So she had her daughters tested, both of them. Guess what? They have the same gene. So they are doing things that mom didn't know to do because they found out they have the same genetic leanings. That's amazing and powerful. If you have not tested your DNA yet, I encourage you to do that. It's $200. Now, if you don't want GlaxoSmithKline or one of the other pharma companies owning your DNA because they're the ones buying data from 23andMe, I will make sure that you guys have a link to buy a DNA kit from a friend of mine who's been doing this for a decade and won't sell your data to big pharma. So that is available to you if you don't want to use someone like 23andMe. So I'll send you that. Here's what I want you to realize. DNA doesn't just sit there and do nothing. It responds to the environment daily and decides which genes to express and which genes to hold back or repress. Gene expression and gene repression over the course of the next decade is called epigenetics, not genetics. So there's two terms here. Genetics, that's what you're stuck with, and epigenetics, how what you're stuck with is responding to the environment. And when we look at David Sinclair's research in human longevity, 90-ish% of all diseases in society right now are epigenetic diseases, not genetic. And that's important. Your DNA doesn't have eyes at all. I don't know if you guys know this. Your DNA does not have eyes. Despite the cartoon drawings you may have seen in the books when you were a kid, your DNA does not have eyes. So it responds to the environment through three primary pathways. If you change these pathways, you are 90% likely to live to 100 years old. All you have to do is align your thoughts, your movement, and your food with somebody who lives to 100. And that's important. And thoughts are at the top. Obviously, if you guys remember the list, food and movement, that's nutrition and exercise, are number 4 and 5. I'm going to talk to you about thoughts. We're going to do this for a lot of our time together before we take a quick little break, because thoughts are so important. They drive your physical body to change its response to the environment based on just what you're thinking. In science, we call this placebo. So I'm going to talk a little bit about stress. In science, this is called the placebo effect. Let me explain this. Do we all know what that is? We all know placebo effect. How many of you guys have shrugged your shoulders at that? Yeah, it's just placebo. And we just dismiss that. Let me tell you what kind of magic nonsense this is. A person in a costume lied to you, and you had a positive, measurable physical event happen because you believed a lie from somebody in a costume. Doesn't that sound like voodoo? A little bit? right? It so happens that person in a costume probably had a doctor on their little lab coat, and you went to a clinic, a place where doctors hang out, but they can give you a placebo, and it can lower your blood pressure. They've done placebo surgeries. I'll point out one of them. I'm not going to talk a lot about it, but I want you to understand how powerful the human brain is. That we can lie to you and have your body change physically because you believe that lie. For all drugs to come to market, any prescription drug, it has to outperform the nothing pill. And if you guys were to look at how many drugs can't outperform placebo, it's thousands a year will never come to market because they can't beat the nothing pill. That's amazing to me. That is incredible power that your brain can just change that. Now, if it works on the positive side, like if it works so well, they did a placebo heart surgery. This is back in the late 1960s. They did a surgery on the heart called the ligation. This is where they tie two small blood vessels together to spark angiogenesis around the area. So they tie these blood vessels together and new blood vessels grow around it to provide oxygen to the tissue that they just tied the blood vessels off on. They'd have about a 67% recovery rate in folks that got a ligation. So they said, hey, what if we just didn't do the surgery? Well, that doesn't sound like a damn good idea, does it? But they did. People that were coming into this clinic were given the option to enroll in this trial. And they weren't told what group they were in. They were either in the group that got the surgery, had about a 67% recovery, or they were in a group that were lied to. Here's what they did to that group. They cut them open, and then they sewed them right back up and didn't do anything inside. So these people still got anesthesia, they still got a scar, they still got stitches, but nothing was done on the inside. When that group woke up, a cardiovascular surgeon was with them, telling them how amazing they did, how their surgery was the best they've ever done, and they will have a full recovery. They had an 85% recovery. The nothing surgery on a heart muscle outperformed the active surgery. Now, does this mean we don't do ligations anymore because we can just lie to people? No, not at all. But they've done these surgeries in knee surgeries, shoulder surgeries, elbow surgeries, hip surgeries. They just enroll people in a trial where they lie to some of them and they still get better. In almost every surgery they've done placebo surgeries on, it's almost equal. That's incredible to me that the brain can change that fast. The physiology because we believe a lie. Now, if positive happens that way, do you think negative happens that way too? Probably, right? I'm going to leave this thing on there for just a second. But I want to tell you a story because this is a new story for me. It happened not even a month ago in Kansas City. So I'm hanging out in Kansas City with a bunch of executives, and sitting right about here at a table is a gal from Ukraine. Now, a month ago, a gal from Ukraine, I thought, oh, I'm going to hear a story about her mom who's still in Ukraine and how they're fighting a war and getting shot at. That's not what she told me. She said, I got a call from my mother 2 weeks ago. Doctor diagnosed her with cancer. Can't cure it. You're going to die. Day later, she started losing her hair. About a week later, she couldn't get out of bed. She was that sick. And she's like, oh my God, my mom is going to die, and I'm over here. I can't go see her. Her mom got a call about a week and a half later from the doctor. Yeah, we messed up. That wasn't your blood work. You are not sick at all. You don't have cancer. She wasn't sick and didn't have cancer. What was causing the hair loss and her to be sick? It wasn't stress. I'll tell you, she had come to grips with the fact that she was going to die. You guys, she was dying from the diagnosis. And it was wrong. That's how powerful your brain is. I'll prove it to you right now. You guys have all experienced a similar event, although not as powerful. How do you feel? This is where you yell at me. How do you feel after watching 3 hours of the news? Let's hear it. Terrible, bad, I heard sad. Anyone angry, depressed, anxious? I have a pill for all of that, and I'm going to advertise on the news. 78% of advertisements on television are drug companies selling you stuff to combat what they just caused by you watching that thing. You guys want my advice? Turn the big blue box off. This is a gorgeous world to be. Hang out with people that love you and go outside. Way better that way. Do we have stress outside? How many of you guys have ever been fly fishing and been stressed out the whole time? Because you weren't catching any fish? We can change that, right? We just got to get you a better fly fishing rig and maybe a better river to fish on. But otherwise, there is none. There's no stress in nature unless there's one of these. You guys, I don't know anyone that stresses about tigers today. Not one, except that damn Carol Baskin down in Florida. And I love the fact that you still know who I'm talking about, because that was years ago. Okay? Her husband is a fancy feast, if you don't understand that. All right. Do you guys stress about bears in the office? One of my Italian friends, he does a history podcast. He's amazing. His voice is so silky smooth, but it's heavily Italian. He heard me speak the other week, and he said, "Man, you are really obsessed with bears, aren't you?" I'm like, not really, but can you imagine if they had cars? If bears had cars? Like, we'd be done if bears were driving with us. We are so lucky that we have this thing, right? Or we'd be in trouble. If it wasn't for the thumb and the fact that we can pick up technology, we would not be doing well at all. Raise your hand if you're worried about tigers or bears in your office. No, we don't stress about that anymore. You guys, the natural state of humans is kind of chill. Go fly fishing, you'll figure out how you're supposed to feel every day. But that's not us in society, is it? We're chronically stressed out. I'll give you the statistic. You can find this pretty easy. The average American sits in low-grade stress for 10 to 12 hours a day over money and relationships. Can you imagine if you were stressed for 12 hours a day in nature? How big is that bear? How slow is it, too, if it's 12 hours? You guys, that's got to be a pretty slow bear if it's still stressing you out 12 hours later. Yeah, do you guys know this about yourself? Do you know that you're delicious? Am I the first one to call you delicious today? You guys, I can guarantee you're delicious. Ask any bear. You are a delicious wet bag of meat. And you are the slowest wet bag of meat out there. Aren't you? Have you guys, I always ask people for video proof. I would love it if one of you would send me a video at some point this next year of you trying to catch anything outside at all with your bare hands. I want to watch because it's hilarious. We're painfully slow. Guys, the only reason we're here in this room is because we use technology. If we didn't use technology, we're middle of the food chain at best. If you don't believe me, walk outside with no technology on and see how well you do. That means no clothing, no technology at all. Go out there and see how you do, because your night vision sucks, your camouflage sucks, you're painfully slow, you're insanely weak. We are so weak, it's crazy. And the claws? How many of you have ever broken a claw? I'm looking at the ladies for this. Guys, I had my claws a little too long the other day, and I put one in my pocket, and I broke my claw on cotton. Cotton broke my claw. I'm useless outside. So if it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for tribal relationships of about 100 to 150, we wouldn't be here. We're not supposed to be stressed all day. We're supposed to be hanging out in a group that loves us, being awesome, and the stress comes when our life is in danger. Our stress doesn't come from credit scores outside. Ask a deer if it's worried about its credit score. First of all, why are you talking to a deer? And how do you know how it responds? I want to know your secrets if that's what's happening. But go ask any animal if it's worried about credit scores, because they're not. They're worried about, am I going to make new animal today, and what am I going to eat? And then after those two things, it's what's that thing, and is it going to eat me? That's it. That's us outside. And then we lock ourselves in a cage all day, and we wonder why things are going horribly wrong. Because you're locked in a cage all day, freaking out for 12 hours a day about money, which is fake. Where's my banker at? Money is fake. It's a made-up construct of humans. We're the only ones that use it. It's a made-up construct. Learn the rules, and the tool is awesome, right? Money is a tool. That's how I look at it. It's how I buy food. It's how I get one of these things. I use the tool to get one of these. Turns out that tool, if you have enough of it, can go make itself. That's pretty cool. Okay, and those relationships, why would I stress about my relationships? That's my tribe. Oops, look, I touched the thing. That's my tribe. Why would I stress about my tribe? Guys, if you're stressed about people, let's learn people better or find you new people. We should never stress about our relationships. We're lucky. Humans that lived outside relied on those 100 people to keep us safe. Guys, I want you to write 4 words down today. I want you to focus on our children here for a second. I'm leaving the screen blank intentionally because I want to refocus on one thing. You are here for one reason only, and that's because you used to hang out in a group when you were outside. And if you didn't hang out in a group, you probably got eaten. In that group, you were 4 things. These are the 4 words I want you to write down, and I want you to pay attention to these and teach our kids and our grandkids, like today. In a group of 100 people, you were needed, valued, loved, and important. That was every day of your life. You showed up to a group of people where you were an integral part of something bigger than yourself, and they needed you, and they loved you, and you were important. Now the average American has 8 friends and goes to a place they can't stand going 5 days a week so they can go home and hang out with a real tribe. As I'm going to ask you, if you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am needed, valued, loved, and important, I feel that way every day, I'll ask you, are you offering that to those around you as well? Is that what happens when people go to work for you? Do they feel needed? Do they feel loved? Do they feel valued? Do they feel important? If they do, they're going to hang out a lot longer with you. If they don't, they're going to complain about it on their job survey, and you're going to become a statistic because the vast majority of Americans hate their job. It's sad to me that we went from 150 people loving us to having 8 people barely. You know what that causes in animals? When we combine that with the fact that we moved from outside to in a cage all day, we're under constant stress with free access to sugar and drugs. Do you know what that causes in any other animal ever? Self-harm. We're the only animals on the planet that kills themselves. And that right now, if you're 9 to 34, is the number 2 cause of death behind cancer. And that is sad. That is really sad. It goes cancer, then suicide in our 9 to 34-year-olds, and we need to do something about it. If you know or love somebody who's 9 to 34, you need to make sure they daily feel needed, valued, loved, and important. Let's give them something big to do that's bigger than themselves. That's why I will never retire. Because Bruce and I were talking about that. He's the same philosophy. You can't not do nothing. You can't just go fishing every day. What a waste. Yeah, some days it's fun, but what are you doing for the others? That's how we really stay involved in this. You guys want the number 1 secret to longevity that we'll kind of cover right now? It's that. That's the one people don't talk about. There's some books written on that. There's some really great books written on this. There's some great scientific studies done on this. Couples who are married for more than 50 years. If she dies, he has an 80% chance of death that year, even if he's not sick. That's how much we need to be connected to a tribe. So I'm going to tell you, if your tribe is work, never retire. And if your tribe is family, always be hanging out with those people so that you get a chance of living longer. And stop being stressed out over money. Let's just go learn money. You guys, stress is this thing. You all know that, right? I never surprise people when I say stress is fight or flight. I surprise them when I say fight or flight has a 3rd F. Who knows what? It's called the F3 system in science. What's the 3rd F? And please don't do what they did in Texas. You guys, this is no joke. Real story, 5 years ago, sitting right over in the corner of the room was a tiny little lady who's running the show for a group of executives. I said, it's fight, flight, or, and she yelled it at me, firearms! She screamed it. I'm like, welcome to Texas. I like this lady. Okay, it's not firearms. What is it? Fight, flight, or? It's similar to fail, it's freeze. It's fight, flight, or freeze. Watch this. It's in all animals. Sneak up on your dog. Watch what your dog does when you sneak up on it. What does it do? Stops for a second, and then it gets the zoomies, right? Because you're playing. Yay, you snuck up on me. Sneak up on my dog, it's not the same. Okay, if you sneak up on my dog, it'll still freeze first, but then it's going at you with giant teeth. Because it doesn't know you. If it knows you, it's going to get the zoomies and play. Okay, it's always freeze first. When our life is in danger, we find this is, you've all proven this to yourself at some point or another if you drive a car. Somebody runs a stoplight in front of you, what do? Just let go of the wheel and hope? Or do you freeze for a second and then do something about it so you don't die? Brake or swerve or accelerate through or whatever you're going to do. Sometimes it's unconscious. We don't even think about it. This is a protective mechanism built into animals that lived outside that could be in danger. I always have people, I pause for a second and say, let's hear a bear story. Because a bunch of us in here have seen a bear in nature, right? I used to say, raise your arm if you've been in a bear attack. And then I realized that you're not going to have an arm to raise if you've been in a bear attack. But when we see a bear in nature, we tend to do something. We don't just stop and do nothing and post about it on Facebook. Oh, bears, I guess I'm going to die. But that's what we do with our daily stress, isn't it? We don't do anything. We just bitch about it because that gets us some attention and, oh, that feels good. Guys, it's not normal to stay frozen. If you have stress, do something. You don't sit and do nothing and complain. We actually physically do something. Fight or flight for 12 hours a day is going to kill you. You can't do it. I'll show you some hormones that are going to hurt if they're on for 12 hours a day. Here's the nature's rule. I like to point out, she's got the rule, not me. If your life is in danger, you take action or die. That's how it works. You don't just sit there and complain. So, these are 6 hormones. These are actually 6 letters, but we're going to talk about some hormones that are going to be affected when you see a bear. These hormones over the course of the next 15 seconds during a bear event will be normal and necessary. These hormones, when left on for 12 hours a day for the next 30 years, will lead to radical amounts of modern diseases. We all know the bear hormones, the first 2, right? What happens to you when you see a bear? Heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, pupils dilate, right? That's normal. Your body is preparing you to run away from your slowest friend. You guys, if you want to take some notes here, you can't outrun bears. I don't know if you know that. I already told you, you're very slow. So you can't outrun bears. So if you are in nature and you see a bear, be prepared to run away from your slowest friend. Okay? Carry a knife maybe to help you out. Okay? If you're taking real notes here, it's don't go hiking with Dan. That's the note you should be taking because you will be the slow one. Okay? But we know adrenaline is going up. We know cortisol is going up. Those are normal. There's a bear. You're going to need those. Those are normal if somebody misses a stoplight in front of you and just drives past you at 60 miles an hour when it was supposed to be your turn. That's normal. Man, that makes you kind of agitated and weird, doesn't it? How many of you have been told you're just a sweetheart when you're stressed out? No, quite the opposite, right? Kind of a jerk. So let's not leave these on all day. It's causing some problems in our relationships, and they're not good. Adrenaline and cortisol will cause your blood pressure to be up and your heart rate to be increased. What disease am I making worse if it's present? The #1 killer in the country. It's not doing me any favors here. When cortisol is activated higher than its normal levels, it will block testosterone. You will not be able to use testosterone, and many of you will not even be able to make it because cortisol steals some of the same building blocks. So your testosterone will drop, guaranteed. There's no question about this. If cortisol is high, testosterone is down. And when testosterone is down, your body secretes estrogen to fill that gap. High estrogen, low testosterone is responsible for muscle loss, libido loss, relationships falling apart, brain atrophy, bone density loss, and exacerbations in almost every cancer known to humans, specifically breast cancer in women. High estrogen, low testosterone is not your friend. And this is 12 hours a day, every day, because I'm freaking out about money or my job or my relationships. Stuff that's not immediately life-threatening. It could be. I'm not taking the fact away that you've got some stress about money if you can't pay your rent, but damn it, let's do something about it instead of complaining and worrying, because action saves our life in nature. Maybe action saves our life in real life too. How many of you stress eat salads? Raise your hand. Not a single one of you stress eat salads? That's because your blood sugar goes up when you're stressed. And when that sugar starts running out, you're going to eat that bag of M&Ms without thinking about it. Like, how did I eat the whole bag? I just bought it. Yep, that's what stress does. Eat sugar right now, there's still a bear. Insulin from the beta cells in your pancreas has to be secreted to use that sugar. When insulin comes in peaks and valleys instead of nice, slow, rolling curves, you end up with what they call insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, type 3 diabetes. Who knows what that is? Insurance people, where are you at? Who knows what type 3 diabetes is? The NIH started calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes back in 2018. We are not talking enough about sugar's role in the brain. Dr. Dale Bredesen wrote one of my favorite books on Alzheimer's called, are you ready for this? The End of Alzheimer's. Dr. Dale Bredesen is a scientist researching Alzheimer's for decades in humans. He's published a study where he reversed end-stage Alzheimer's in 50 people, gone like it never even existed in them, and it was end-stage. He will state in his scientific research the #1 cause of Alzheimer's globally is sugar. #2 is environmental toxins, specifically aluminum in your deodorant and diet sodas. #3 is mom and dad giving you some bad genes. And you guys, I watched my mom die with Alzheimer's, and for the last 9 years of her life, she didn't know her family. This is a gal who drank 2 liters of sugary soda a day, every day while I knew her. She might still be here today if she didn't do that. I don't blame my mom and dad for dying, but it's sad for my kids because they don't have grandparents on either side. The mother of my children, her parents are both dead, both from smoking-related diseases, one from heart disease from smoking, the other one from a stroke. They died in their 50s. It's sad. My kids don't have grandparents. That's tragic. You should be there for your grandkids. You should be there for your great-grandkids. We have the ability to do that. This is a problem. These hormones, when you see a bear, are going to happen whether you want them to or not. Because 88% of your brain doesn't know what reality is, these hormones turn on when you stress about money. Because your brain doesn't know you're not under physical attack. And because we're stressed about money and relationships all day long, these hormones just keep staying on. That's causing so many diseases. If we were to go look this statistic up right now on the Google machines, and you guys, if you got a computer out, let's look it up. You can just type in how many doctor visits in the United States are stress-related. You know what you'll find? By the way, this is your health care. 70%. 70% of every doctor visit in this country is stress-related. Do we live in that shitty of a country? Or do we have a really bad relationship with our environment because we don't know that it could be better? Because somebody told us it's normal to be stressed out, you just need to manage it. Guys, stop managing bears. If bears are in your neighborhood eating children, do you manage the bear? Let's hear it. Where are my parents at? Couple of kids a week, manage the bear. Hopefully not yours. Timmy down the street can go, though. Get him out of here. No, we don't manage that bear. We eliminate the threat. Well, why don't we do that with our daily stress? If you guys have stress every day, I want you to eliminate the threat. And it's a lot easier than you think because stress isn't being caused by the thing. Stress is being caused because of my reaction to the thing. To work on the Alaskan pipeline, you have to go to a 4-hour class called How Not to Become Lunch. Guess what they teach you? How not to become lunch. Guys, it's right in the title. They teach you about bears. Because on the Alaskan pipeline, they're not the 400-pound bears you find in Missouri. They're the 900-pound monsters with knives on their feet that eat slow, wet, delicious bags of meat like you. So they teach them for 4 hours what it means when they're postured like this, how to stay away from them, when are they really threatening. They teach them about bears, and that lowers their stress level when they're in the environment of bears. Simple education can change our response to an environment that's full of bears. So that's what we're going to use primarily for today to get rid of stress, because I don't want you guys to have it. You shouldn't have it. Gosh, you're here. You guys aren't working today, you're here. That's amazing. And you're in a building and there's free food, I think that's fantastic. Why would you be stressed out? So we're going to get rid of stress. We can get rid of stress two ways. This guy's doing it right here. You know what he's doing? Of the fight or flight or freeze, what is he doing? He's fleeing. And guess what he's doing with his hormones when he moves his body in a physical manner? He's raising his testosterone, he's burning through the blood sugar, and he's dumping adrenaline and cortisol. If you don't want to think and you're stressed out, does everyone know when you're stressed out? You guys know when you're stressed out, right? That's when your Apple Watch beeps at you and tells you to breathe. How many of you have turned that feature off because it does that all the time? That's a bad idea. Look, the universe will whisper. She'll whisper a lot. If you don't listen to those whispers, you're going to have to hear her screaming, and you don't want to hear her screaming. So if the Apple Watch is beeping, telling you to breathe, that is a whisper. If you've turned that feature off and you're listening to me right now, this is a whisper. The scream is when you have that first heart attack, and you don't want that because 47% of people don't live past the first one. All right, so physical movement. Excuse me. That eagle that I ate earlier is stuck in my throat. When you run, or when you do push-ups, or when you do burpees, or when you hit the punching bag, you dump the stress hormones so that you're calmer and nicer. And if you don't believe me that this works, try it with your children. The next time your children are being kind of a jerk, send them to run around the outside of the house 10 times before they're allowed to come back in, and you tell me how much nicer they are. Because if I can get stress hormones out of the way, not only will you eat better instead of eating the M&Ms, but you'll be nicer and make better decisions. Physical exercise works 100% of the time, every time. In all animals, it works in dogs and kids. Okay? So keep this in your back pocket. You're not going to do it most of the time. You're not going to flee. I don't want you running from your stress anyway, because if you run away today, what's going to happen tomorrow? You're going to have to run away again tomorrow. I want you turning and fighting, but I want you to put this one in your back pocket because you don't have to think. If you don't want to have to think and you're stressed out, go for a nice long run at lunch and come back and watch how much easier the afternoon is. Okay? Now, this requires a shower in most cases, maybe a costume change, and it's socially unacceptable to step out of a business meeting and start doing burpees, so you're probably not going to do it. So if you can't do that, then we'll turn and fight. And you guys, we're going to talk a little bit about this, because if you can get rid of the bears, then there's no bears. If for the next 90 days you always eliminate a bear the minute it pops up, I guarantee you the next 9 months of this year, you will not have bears. That's how that works. Keep eliminating the threats, and then there are no threats. I was at North Dakota State University in 1990. I had graduated from high school having finished 2 years of college already. So when I say I'm a nerd, I'm a super nerd. I have a cape and everything. I went to North Dakota State University to study organic chemistry. I had a scholarship from DuPont. I had a job waiting for me in Texas. I was going to finish a 4-year degree in 2 years. The summer between high school and college, I went to Argonne National Lab and I made superconductors for the summer. That's what nerds do in the summer, if you guys don't know. I got a call on a landline in early 1990. You guys remember landlines? Phones that can't run away. And that don't take photos. That's weird. On the landline was my mother. She said, "I'm homeless. Will you come help?" Okay, I grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota, you guys. 58,000 people in that community while I was growing up. So small town USA surrounding us was farms upon farms upon farms. That's all it was. This is before the big oil boom in North Dakota. So it was just farmers. And then a little bit of the people doing stuff like my dad did for a living. My mom and dad were married for 23 years. They met when she was on the family farm. He was fresh back from Vietnam. He was already smoking and drinking professionally. My mom and dad met, fell in love, got married, had babies. And the rule was dad works, mom raises the kids. Now, my mom was raised on a family farm in Wing, North Dakota. Does anyone know where that is? Okay, I didn't think so. I always look to see if somebody does. Wing, North Dakota had a population of 8. It was all just farmers and a post office. My mom dropped out of school in the 4th grade to work on the family farm. It was the early 1950s. You could do that back then. You could work on the family farm and not go to school if you didn't want to. So in the 4th grade, she dropped out. She worked on the family farm, with her siblings. There were 15 other ones there. And then she did that. No high school education, no junior high education, no nothing. Meets my dad, falls in love, gets married. I wish I could show you their photos because she was really pretty and my dad was fairly handsome. Not when they were dying, though. They looked way different. My mom, after 23 years of being married, he walked away one day with their only car, drove to the bank, took all the money, and never came back. That was it. You would remember it, raging alcoholic. There's no lawyers in divorce. It's just, I'm leaving and gone. My mother found herself in her mid-40s with no money, no car, no family, never had a job in her life, didn't even know how to fill out a job application. She had a 4th grade education. She ended up homeless in a month and a half. A month and a half it took her to end up homeless. That's a bear. You guys, we bitch about traffic while we're in our car. Let me slow that down. We bitch about traffic when we are traffic. That's our stress. You're the problem, and you're like, it doesn't even make sense. I heard somebody complain the other day about cold coffee. Are you kidding me? That's the worst thing that's going to happen to you today is cold coffee? There's a 6-year-old girl in this country that's going to die of a disease she can't pronounce, that she can't even pronounce, and we're complaining about cold coffee. Look, your problems are your problems, but I'm saying sometimes all we need is a little perspective. We're doing okay, right? My mom was homeless, and the number one thing she did, you guys ready for this? You're going to want to write this down, was call for help. That's how we get rid of bears. Look, think about it. If there's a bear in your neighborhood, you're just going to roll up your sleeves and go, I got this, leave me alone. Or are you going to call for help, and at 20 or 30 of you are going to go, we got this, let's do it together. We do better when we tackle stress as a team instead of alone. Stop trying to fight the bears alone and make a list of names the next time you have stress on who's going to help. That's very important. Do you guys write your stress down so you can see it? Let's do that first. Why don't you write it down? What does the bear look like? Let's write that thing down. I'm stressed because, and then put a sentence in there, not just a word. You can't just say I'm stressed because of money. Look, if you're stressed because of money, my first question is it because you have too much or too little? And if you have too much money and that's stressing you out, you need my cell phone number. I can help. Okay? But if you don't have enough money, I want to know why. I want to know, is it sales numbers are down at work? Did you not get your bonus check? Is there no overtime this week? Are you stressed because you spent too much? What? What's going on so you can see it? Who's going to help you with it? That's the most important question I will ever ask anyone ever. Who's helping? Who's helping you with your stress? Look, if I have a business thing that comes up, I have a team of people that get an email. One of them is going to have an answer. I don't have to stress about it. If I have a personal thing that comes up, Penelope and I have a conversation about what's going on with me. Penelope is my partner. I don't know if you guys have that at home, but it's pretty powerful to have somebody you can actually talk to about stuff. If it's something else, I have other people. I have teams of people for different stresses because I don't ever want it. I'm 51 years old and I have no stress in my life at all. People say travel is stressful. I'm like, no, travel's not stressful. Let me tell you what's stressful. Saturday is stressful. Saturday, I go to a room for 2 hours filled with 190-pound dudes that are trying to choke me to death. That's Saturday. It's called jiu-jitsu class. I go to a room voluntarily with human beings who are trying to choke the life out of me for 2 straight hours. Tell me what Monday's going to throw at me that's worse than that. Perspective, guys. Choose hard, and then life gets easy. My favorite book on that is Michael Easter's The Comfort Crisis. If you have not read that, who's read that book? Has anyone read it? I probably sell more of Michael's books than I should. You guys, that is my favorite book of the last 200 books I've read. Michael Easter, The Comfort Crisis, will help you maybe choose some perspective in your own life. But we have a really easy life. It's always 70 degrees and soft. So if you don't do something hard, we start losing perspective. And then all of a sudden, the hangnail is the worst thing that happens today because we lost perspective. So keep that in mind. Who's helping you with your thing? Whatever your stress is, who's going to help you eliminate that threat? Second thing I want on your list is what my mother did. She went and got a GED. So by the way, I dropped out of college and went back home and supported my mother. I never finished my degree in organic chemistry. I didn't go back to school for 10 years. And when I went back to school, I wasn't interested in chemistry because I didn't think it was marketable enough at the time, so I went and got a business management degree. That was a decade later. I was supporting my mother. And then I fell in love and had babies, and then I had kids, and I didn't want to go back to college because it took too much time and money. But when I did, I decided to stack 3 master's degrees on top of that. But mom had to be taken care of first. My mother got a GED, and that allowed her to get a job. Her first job was her only job. She stayed there for almost 19 years. They forced her to retire because her Alzheimer started to get so bad. She had one job in her whole life. She worked her way out of homelessness, bought a condo, bought a car, lived a fairly average life. Second thing on her list was to get an education. I will encourage you, if you have stress, how are you going to educate against that stress? Like they do with bears on the Alaskan pipeline, like I tell people to do with money. Do you know how stressful money isn't when you just know what it looks like and have a budget to follow? I'm going to show you why money is the number one stress in the country. You guys ready? Raise your hand nice and high so everyone can see it, and then I want you guys to look around the room. If in high school you had a full class on personal finance and household budgeting. That's a very, very small amount of hands. Shouldn't that be Did you guys go to private school back here or what? No? That public school did that? That's amazing. They're not doing that. That's why money is a stress. Nobody educated us on money. Guys, bears are stressful if you don't know bears. I would encourage you to get on that Dave Ramsey train right now and go through that financial budgeting course for households. And you guys, I know people that teach this for a living for free. Dave Ramsey has a 3-page interactive worksheet that helps with household budgeting that takes 2 hours to learn. Get a household budget, get it written down so that you can see it. That's a form of education. If you are having trouble with relationships, let's read the 4 agreements again. Let's read the 5 love languages again. If you guys have not read those, I'm saying again because you better have read those. Those should be human operating manuals that you're given during junior high. The 4 agreements, the 5 love languages, get some Myers-Briggs or DISC training in there so you understand not everyone is you. It makes dealing with humans easier. You want the best education on dealing with humans? Go join a martial arts program and stay in it for 35 years like I did. The best education you'll ever get in humans. Some of the deadliest humans I know are the nicest people you will ever meet because they know what it's like to be hurt. And sometimes that's all we need. Ow, that's breaking my arm. I'm never going to do that to anyone else. That hurts. Sometimes martial arts is the best training we can get for that. Is that making sense for you guys? Does anyone meditate in here? What kind of meditation do you do? Prayer? Look at that. That's a beautiful word, isn't it? How about you? So seated breath work? So do you chant a mantra at all? Sometimes. You guys, this is the reason why most people didn't raise their hands, and he's doing it successfully, but most people won't. If I tell you meditation has to be seated, you better put your hands like this, light the candles, light the incense, and then start chanting a mantra in an ancient language that you don't understand. Doesn't that sound an awful lot like how to summon a demon? Okay. So a lot of us aren't going to even try that. I don't know what that language is. So here's what I want you to realize. Meditation has a 3-word definition, and it is becoming fully present. And you can do that in prayer, and you can do that in breath work, or watch this. You can do that when you're fly fishing. Because what are you thinking about when you're fly fishing? Fly fishing. You're not thinking about 3rd quarter sales numbers from last year. You're thinking about fishing. And it makes you fully present. And a fully present human being doesn't have to break their legs like this person does. A fully present human being is nicer and calmer. And it's harder to stress them out. I want 20 minutes of your day on the calendar, non-negotiable, or you don't get to deal with people today. Meditate daily, no matter what. I was up in Iowa. Guys, I grew up in North Dakota, so we always made fun of the people in the South a little bit, right? You guys can make fun of me, too, because I have that Southern Canadian accent. But you guys get it, right? Southern, eh? I'm a little nicer, but I still have guns because I grew up in Southern Canada. But I asked the people in Iowa, I'm like, you guys, I know I'm in Iowa, but does everyone brush their teeth in here? So I can ask you guys the same thing, right? Someone brush their teeth? Okay, so you don't skip brushing your teeth, then I don't want you to skip meditation. It's that important. You'll lose friends if you miss both of those things, right? You guys know that. You skip 5 days of brushing your teeth, you lose friends. You skip 5 days of meditation, you lose friends. Okay, you're nicer when you do it. So what I like to do, there's a book called Atomic Habits. If you are a leader and you have not read that book, shame on you. Let's get it on your list. Atomic Habits is a fantastic read. He talks about stacking habits on top of each other that have a similar impact. Well, that's what we're going to do with this. I like to call this tethering because it makes more sense in my head. Tomorrow morning, you are not allowed to pick up your toothbrush until you've done at least half of your meditation for the day. Non-negotiable, tie those two things together, so you have to do the one that you're starting as a new habit. You are not allowed to brush your teeth until you meditate for at least 10 minutes. And you can meditate by doing breath work or by doing a prayer. Or it's going to be hard to fly fish before you brush your teeth. I get it, you guys, but maybe we just download an app for this. Maybe we just put an app. We can do active meditation, moving meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, skiing, surfing. I know the surfing in Branson, Missouri is not that great. Okay? Surfing in Minneapolis is worse. So when I surf in California. And I still suck, but it's amazing because it's meditation. But this app, the Insight Timer app, guided prayer from faiths from around the world, nature sounds, ocean sounds, guided meditations, music playing. You pick, there's 70,000 variations on a single app. I like it because it downloads for guess how much money? $0. I like 10% Happier and Headspace and Calm. Those are good apps as well, but they're subscription-based, and a lot of people don't like that. Here's a free one. Put that on your phone, and that's your morning meditation. Pick one. There's 10-minute meditations, 5-minute meditations. There's 2-hour meditations to help you go to bed. I dare you to hear the end of one of those, because the average listener listens for 7 minutes before they're asleep. It's pretty fascinating research. Okay? This sets the stress bar high enough to make the rest of whatever else we're doing easier. Doesn't it? How long have you been meditating? 7 years. How long have you been doing prayer? 6. Can you imagine not doing it? Everyone I talk to that does this daily can't imagine not doing it. So you guys, I'm going to encourage you, give it 30 days and then send me an email and tell me how it impacted your life, because I like the tribal stories. I use those stories, like the Ukrainian woman whose mother was diagnosed with cancer that wasn't even sick. I like those stories so I can share them with others. You do this for 30 days and tell me how you feel when you're done. I had a gentleman do this and get mad at me after day 8. He's going to send me an email that day. He was so pissed at me because I said, dude, your job sucks and you're bringing it home. Meditate in your car in the driveway before you go into your family. He's like, okay, I'll try it. He has a 7 and 9-year-old. So he goes and meditates in his car for 20 minutes every day at the end of the day before he goes inside to talk to his wife and kids. And he's so mad at me on day 8 because he feels like he's wasting 20 minutes with his family. He comes in the door that day. He's already prepared to write me an email. He came in the door and his 7 and 9-year-old kid came up to him and said, Daddy, how come you're not so mean anymore after work? On day 8, the kids noticed before he did. So he sent me that email telling that story instead. I want more of those from you. So if you're meditating and you think it's hard and something changes, send me an email. I'll make sure that you guys all get my email address. It'd be fun to hear your story so I can share it with somebody else. Okay? Is that simple? If it was easy, we'd all be doing it, but is it simple? Make a list of who's going to help you when you're stressed out. That is a vital response to stress. Stop doing it alone. Make a list of what kind of education you can get on that stressor so that it doesn't happen again. And then the other things on your list might need to be assigned to other people. I don't know what your stress is, but you may have to assign tasks to others or make a longer list. But I'm going to encourage you to meditate daily so that that is easier to deal with. I don't know you, so I can't change your situation. But I'll tell you right now that my friends with PTSD from being shot at and killing people at war do the same damn thing. They have people helping them. They have education on how to deal with this long term. They do the same thing I ask people to do when their daily stress is, I don't know, we're rebuilding our second home and it's kind of stressful. I had a Canadian couple, they were rebuilding their cabin as a $12 million remodel on their cabin. And that was stressing them out and driving their marriage apart. I'm like, you guys are ridiculous. This is your second place and you're stressed about it. That's nuts to me, you guys. Sometimes we just need perspective. Maybe we do need a real bear to walk through your yard and go, ooh, we're lucky. Okay, until that, you guys listen to the whisper so that you don't have to hear the screaming. I want to take a 10-minute break. Are you guys good with 10 minutes? Do you want to talk about sleep and then take one? What do you guys want to do? Should we take it? Should we vote? I got 10 o'clock. I'm going to stop at 11:30, so we got an hour and a half. How about we come back at 10:10? It's almost 10, so let's come back at 10 after 10. Synchronize your watches. We're doing a bank heist at 10:10. Guys, I'm going to start talking with or without you at 10 minutes after the hour. So if you need to freshen up coffee or use the restroom, come join me back here in 14 minutes. How many hours are you supposed to sleep every night? You guys know? 8, 9, 7. Somebody said 6. You guys, this is pretty well-established science. It should be somewhere between 7 and 9. Like, that should be the average. It's going to vary every day. Some days it'll be 7 and you'll feel great. Some days it'll be 9 and you'll still be tired. It's never 6 unless you have one of those awesome superpowers from mom and dad, like DEC2. That's a gene code that we can look for in your genetic coding. If you have it, 6 hours is awesome. You guys, I'll tell you about me. I have genetic anomalies that don't allow good deep sleep. So I usually need longer sleep. I have a client who gets 48% of his night on average in the deep sleep patterns. He wakes up after 6 hours and feels great. So when we ran his DNA, guess what? He's got DEC2. 1 out of every 1,000 people have that. They do way better than some of us that don't. I have leanings in the other direction. So for me, I'm going to need more than 7. Certainly not 6. Or I'm going to be tired all day and then overuse what drug? Caffeine. Not that there's anything wrong with that particular drug. It might be wrecking my sleep in the first place. So let's take a look at this. I'll just throw this up here. You guys can read. That's one of the largest sleep studies ever done in humans. That was a 20-year study looking at overall mortality and how much people slept on average. I do want to refer to one that was published in a major psychological journal back in 2018, done in 38,000 American children. 38,000 children, they looked at chances of them attempting suicide and then looked at how they slept on average. And what they found was per hour, less than 8 in these teenagers. They were 8th, 10th, and 12th grade. There were 38,000 of them. For every hour less than 8, there was a 58% increase in suicide attempts. So 6-hour sleepers in this study versus 8-hour sleepers, these are your children, were 100 and some odd percent more likely to try to kill themselves. Guys, the first organ to suffer if you don't go to bed is the brain. That's one of the only reasons we go to sleep. Why else would it make, and does it make sense that you're paralyzed for a third of your life, unconscious? That's weird, right? When you consider you used to live outside. You're unconscious for a third of your life outside. Boy, that from a nature perspective isn't a very good design, is it? Put a wet bag of meat to sleep for a third of its life? That's weird. That's why you cycle in and out of deep sleep. Because in the light sleep patterns that you see on top, you're kind of awake. And you can hear something sneaking up on your village. In the deep sleep patterns you see at the bottom of the screen, you're not awake at all. You're fully paralyzed. That's where all the healing in the brain happens. That's where you clear the metabolic waste from the brain, including amyloid beta plaque. That gets cleared out in deep sleep. The better your deep sleep now in your 30s and 40s, the better your brain will function when you're 80s and 90s. Because it doesn't have all that plaque to fight through because you were smart enough to stay in bed a little bit longer. There's deep sleep, there's REM sleep in the middle, where it says sleep, and then you've got that kind of awake thing. These are 90-minute cycles on average. You will cycle in and out of deep sleep about 4, 5, or 6 times throughout the course of the night, depending on who you are. Usually the deeper patterns are in the morning, but sometimes we'll see a deep pattern towards the end of the day as well. If you are not tracking your sleep, I would encourage you to. I'll throw some sleep trackers up that you can track your sleep with. I like to look at data so I know what I'm doing, okay? The tracker tracks an input for me. Then I can take a look at what that output looks like. All right? This is what causes you to sleep. Are you ready for this? You live on a round ball. Okay, I'm just waiting, okay? I've met one that doesn't think it's round, okay? I'm looking for others. Not because I'm trying to talk to him, it's just because it's funny. The round ball spins, and when you spin onto the shady side of the round ball, it's sleepy time because your night vision sucks and you've been up all day. That's the thing. That's what causes sleep. It's called circadian patterns. You have a circadian rhythm tied to the star that we chase through space at 67,000 miles an hour. Because you're on a spinning ball, when you're on the back side of the ball, it's tired. When you go to the front side of the ball, it's time to wake up and hunt and forage and make new people. That's how this works. Now, if you were a raccoon, you might be different because they're nocturnal. They're designed to stay awake during the night and sleep most of the day. So some animals have other patterns. You are not that. When the sun is down, you should be getting rest. You got to go back and do this again tomorrow. So the rule is follow what nature's intended for you. But if you lock yourself in a cage all day, we tend to lose a little bit of that, because we're not getting the same rays that the sun would give us. We're not seeing any of the same clues that the sun would give us, like the fact that it's red and then orange and then it's gone. We turn on a gigantic blue screen that mimics the sun all night long while we're home. So I'll go over a couple of things that you can do to not repress your sleepy time hormones, which you don't have to. Guys, do you ever have to concentrate on getting melatonin? Do you ever just like, give me melatonin? Or does it just happen? It just happens. Just go be an animal, and this thing takes care of itself. When you start getting tired, wind down and go to bed. Anyone that has kids in here knows kids have a nighttime bedtime ritual. Yes? What is it? Brush your teeth, take a bath, read a story, go to bed, or whatever. It might be a combination of those. We have a ritual for children, but then we don't when we're adults. Something at college screws that all up for us, right? Like, no, we stopped doing that. I'm going to encourage you to put a bedtime ritual in place for yourself. It doesn't have to be brush your teeth, take a bath, read a story, go to bed, but wow, that worked when you were a kid. Maybe we go back to something like that. For adults, it's, I don't know, what's on TV? One more episode. Oh, one more episode. I don't know, I can't miss this stuff on Instagram. What if I miss out on it? I'm going to keep this thing in my face all night long and then go to bed when I'm finally exhausted, not tired. There's a difference between passing out and falling asleep. I used to put a Bill Cosby joke there, but it was not funny. It still isn't, right? See, too soon? So here's the deal. The #1 sleep disruptor in the country is a drug I can find in the back of the room. What is it? Coffee. #2 sleep disruptor is this thing. That's the #1 and #2 sleep disruptor in the country. A drug and a piece of glass. It sounds like I live in Miami, doesn't it? Drugs and pieces of glass. Okay, anyway. That drug, that caffeine, I'm going to talk about that while I leave the cell phone image on there for a second. That drug that we have in coffee isn't bad. It's just that the half-life is pretty long in humans. The half-life of caffeine in most humans is about 8 hours. That means when I drink caffeine, about 8 hours later, half of that caffeine's still in my body. So if I drink caffeine at 7 in the morning, let's say I go over to Starbucks and I'm going to get a Trenti Frappuccino, right? The turtle mocha vanilla, whatever it's called, the Ugg Boot yoga latte. I don't know what you guys drink. It's something, but it's $6 and the beans are burnt, and I'm going to get that anyway because it's birthday cake in a cup. There's so much sugar. 150 milligrams of caffeine in the average Starbucks drink. That's not out of line. It's about 3 cups of coffee from the back of the room, so it's not extraordinary. It's not like drinking a Monster with 300 milligrams of caffeine. And it's not synthetic caffeine like you'll find in energy drinks. It's actually natural from a bean. Okay, so it's not bad. But if I drink that coffee at 7 in the morning, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is 8 hours later, if you're doing the math, that's half the caffeine is still there. So I'm still fighting through 75 milligrams of caffeine. Not bad. 11 o'clock at night, I should have been asleep 2 hours ago, and I still have 37.5 milligrams of caffeine from my morning coffee. At 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock the next morning, I still have 18 milligrams of caffeine left over from yesterday's coffee, and then I put another one on top. I start my day with 168. Does anyone want to do that for 30 years and tell me what caffeine looks like in the body and why doctors are trying to address what they call adrenal fatigue? Guys, here's the deal. If you always put the drugs in, you'll always have the drugs in your body. I have 3 easy rules for caffeine if you want to keep caffeine in your daily diet and not have it affect your sleep. I don't care if you have it. I'm sick of using the excuse of I can't sleep, and it's because you never put coffee down. And then what happens when you're tired in the morning? What's the first thing you reach for? More coffee. Sounds like a great sales model, doesn't it? How about we do this? Rule number 1, your first hour while you're awake, you are not allowed to drink anything except this clear liquid that you're made of. Do you guys know what this is? This is hydrogen and oxygen in a liquid form. For you to make energy in your body, your mitochondria. I laugh because I think of the mighty mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. You guys remember learning about that in 7th grade science class? You're nodding your head. Yep. The mighty mitochondria. Do you know how many of those you have? You have 40 trillion human cells. And inside each cell, you have about 1,000 mitochondria. They didn't tell you that in school because the numbers get stupid big. You have 40 trillion human cells. Somebody pull out a calculator. Let's see you pronounce this number. 40 trillion, and inside each you have about 1,000 mitochondria. So 40 trillion times 1,000. That number is ridiculous. Your calculator has to be turned sideways to see it, right? It's 40 quadrillion. Mitochondria making energy for you. And guess what 2 molecules they need to make ATP energy for you? You guys ready? They need hydrogen and they need oxygen. And guess where you can get both of those things in one convenient and easy to drink glass? Your first hour while you're awake needs water and water only for the first hour. Then you can start the caffeine IV. Caffeine is a diuretic that pulls water out of your cells. It does the exact opposite of what you're trying to do in the morning, which is wake up. Put water in for your first hour, then you can start caffeine. You'll be more alert, and you'll find yourself less addicted to the caffeine. Rule number 2, stop caffeine intake at lunch so that we don't make this even worse later on. And rule number 3, and this is the easiest rule ever, on Sundays, we drink decaf, period. Easy. You're not going to get the caffeine headaches till day 2, so on Sundays, we drink decaf. That's the rule. That gives you an extra day in the middle of the week to flush all of that extra caffeine out so you can sleep better. Easy? Simple, but not easy. Just, you guys, you still get your coffee. It's just not going to have caffeine. And you know what? If you don't think it's going to work, have somebody that you love that's in your house with you switch you out to decaf and not tell you, and you'll never notice the difference. Especially if it's from the same coffee maker, right? Okay, this blue light thing is hilarious because if I go outside in nature right now, today, you can find this out anytime you want to. I want you to go deep into the woods, and I want you to find a bright, glowing blue light outside. Because unless there's aliens, it doesn't exist. And then they're going to beam you up with it, or whatever you guys experience when you go deep into the woods. Okay? You get blue light during the day. That's what the sun gives you. She gives you heat. Those are red, orange, and yellow frequencies. She gives you light. Those are blue, indigo, and violet frequencies. Those are, think UV versus infrared. They're different frequencies of light. They're different colors. If I go outside at night, the only colors I will ever find are the ones I've used to cook my food, which are what? The campfire, which is red, orange, and yellow. Unless I'm burning some sort of a gas, I'm not going to get blue at night ever. And we've known this for the entirety of human beings, even when we had houses that had candles, those are red, orange, and yellow, incandescent light bulbs. Those are red, orange, or yellow because they're heating a tungsten filament. And now today, when I go inside of most of your homes, the light bulbs will be compact fluorescents or LEDs, which are what color? Blue. And blue light is fine during the day, but it doesn't exist at night outside. So when your body sees blue light when it's dark out, when your circadian pattern says it's sleepy time and you shove a blue light in your face, it confuses your own circadian patterns to think it shouldn't be making sleepy time hormones. It's time to stay awake. It's still daytime. The solution for this, and Dr. Matt Walker is my favorite sleep scientist. Who's yours? I love asking people that because nobody, I don't know, Dr. Matt Walker as well? That's a good thing to just agree with me, you guys. Dr. Matt Walker's book is called Why We Sleep. And in Why We Sleep, he will tell you through decades of researching human sleep and what that means and how we do it better. For 1 to 2 hours before your head hits the pillow, get the blue out of your face. It's literally that easy, guys. It's just an hour. Take 1 hour before you go to bed. Do the same thing you do with your children. It's not playtime on the iPad before bed. It's story time. Read The Tattooed Skin of a Dead Tree before you go to, you guys remember those books, right? Tattooed Skins of Dead Trees. Or put an audio book on or a podcast or listen to something. You can put your phone face down and have some audio running to wind you down before bed. Awesome way to do this. You don't need all of the light disruption all of the time. If the game is running late and you got money riding on it, keep the thing on, that's fine, but at least get the blue blocking glasses. They really do a world of difference. They block about 80% of this nonsense from hitting your brain. Is that fair? That's not out of line. You still get TV, just not all the time, not all the way up until you go to bed. People tell me they can't relax enough to fall asleep without the TV on because we crave social connection at night because it's dangerous to be outside alone when the sun is down. It's the same reason your kids, and probably you, wanted a nightlight on when they were going to bed because pitch black means danger. That's one of those weird epigenetic memories that are stuck in humans from when we used to get hunted at night outside. So you can have the nightlight on, just make sure it's red or orange and very dim, like your campfire. Start thinking, if it's dark outside, campfire in my home. And you guys, we all know that's going to be a different pattern in the winter than it is in the summer, isn't it? Because the sun doesn't set until what, 9:30? And in the winter, that thing is down at 3 in the afternoon, gone, or whatever. Right? Go up to Iceland, it's worse. Winter is like an hour. You get an hour of sun and then that thing is gone. So we're also going to, oh, here's that study that I was showing you. I should just leave that up there and let you guys ponder that for a second if you've got children. This is scary to me. That who's never heard of this study before? I bet none of you have ever heard of this study. Even the ones with kids. Shouldn't we be teaching this to parents? That it's that important for them to get sleep? This is an observational study in 38,000 kids. And you guys, I don't know about you, but I have not changed species since I was a child. This is still going to affect the adult brain. I'm still going to get sad and irritable and eat the wrong foods when I'm, not the wrong foods, but I'm going to eat dirty, delicious carbohydrates when I'm underslept. You guys, right now, if you didn't get 8 hours of sleep last night, will probably eat 250 extra calories today and not even realize it. That's how much this affects our weight. 250 extra calories for the next 30 days gets you a pound of weight gain for no reason whatsoever other than the fact that you just didn't stay in bed. Guys, go to sleep. Make sure your bedroom is dark and cold. This is where fights start in couples. How cold? Well, the science says, the scientists that study this tell us we need some sort of a temperature drop at night. Something. It can't just always be 70 and soft. We need to be a little colder at night. And you guys, if you want to take your cues from nature, simply put a tent in the backyard and tell me how much colder it is at night than it is during the day. Because yesterday it was 96 degrees. What was it last night? Because it wasn't 96. Like 68? That's a heck of a drop. That's 30 degrees. I don't want your bedroom to be 30 degrees colder than it was in your office all day because you're not outside, are you? You're in a room that's 70 degrees and soft. It needs to be colder than that. If you look at Dr. Matt Walker's research, he'll tell you 5 to 10 degrees colder at night. Okay? This is how this works. I tell people you have to pull 2 triggers to make this happen. Your daytime hormones become nighttime hormones when you pull the triggers of dark and cold. And every one of you knows exactly what I'm talking about if you've ever spent time in your friend's basement guest bedroom that doesn't have windows. Who's done that? You wake up like 4 months later, full beard? No? No, maybe the ladies don't have, you're like, I wonder what day it is because you slept that hard. That's how every night should be for you. Make sure your bedroom is pitch black and make sure it's a little chilly in there. I tell Penelope it's got to be cold enough that we don't want to get out from under the covers. That's how cold it should be. Now, does that sound like a fun place to wake up? That sucks to wake up like that. So if you are horrible at mornings, if it's hard to get out of bed, I want you to do 2 things in the morning. You can automate your bedroom to be like this if you have a little bit of money for the tools. Rule number 1, the fastest way to wake a human up is heat. Heat is the easiest way to wake you up. If I heat that room up to 80 degrees before your alarm goes off, you will wake up before that alarm. Rule number 2, the second easiest way to wake a human up is light. Philips makes a light bulb called the Hue light bulb that you can program to turn on before your alarm goes off in your bedroom. You can put it on an app. It'll be an orangish red light that comes on before your alarm. You can also buy the sunrise alarm clock and use that instead. That's a wonderful tool to have in the bedroom, especially for children, because instead of waking them up with a car alarm going off out of nowhere, it wakes them up with a slow sunrise and birds chirping. It's a beautiful tool to have in the bedroom. Heat and light. There's a beautiful tool called the Chili Pad. They just came out with the newest version of this year. This is how we don't fight about the temperature of the bedroom with our partner. The Chili Pad is a super thin layer of water that goes underneath your bottom sheet. Not a water bed. You're not going to feel it. It's a super thin layer of water. But it can heat you up to 100 degrees or cool you down to 45. And you can put it on a curve so that before the alarm goes off, your bed heats you up. And it's dual zone climate control, so you and your partner don't have to fight about what temperature it is in the bed. If somebody in here knows somebody or is going through menopause, this is a lifesaver to get you 2 extra years of good sleep. Okay? Because I know what happens. Women get woken up all night long with hot flashes and they can't sleep, and that happens for 2 or 3 years. And I know that because Penelope, while she's only 48 years old, she's going through perimenopause already because they took her uterus out some time ago. So to make sure she didn't die of cancer, she had some stuff taken out of her body, and that's affecting her hormonal response. The Chili Pad is a lifesaver for that. So look into that tool, see if it's something that you can put in your budget. Maybe put it on your Christmas list. It is fairly expensive, but that'll help you sleep a little bit better if you can't dial in the temperature in your bedroom. Okay, daytime hormones become nighttime hormones. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Serotonin and melatonin are intimately connected together because one of them converts into the other one when you pull the triggers of dark and cold. By the way, both serotonin and melatonin are related to melanin in your skin. Crazy how that works. It's all connected. The daytime and the nighttime are one continuous cycle, not separate from another. That's why, how many of you guys can remember the day you spent outside on the boat sleeping like a rock that day? Even though you didn't do anything on the boat, you just hung out there. That's how important going outside is. We sleep better when we do it. Compare that with the day you watched Netflix all day and then you slept like garbage. We need to be outside. And outside has not only light frequencies that don't penetrate modern glass, so you're not going to get those even through your window, but outside, when light hits the outside of my spacesuit, I create a hormone that is essential for me to make serotonin. Serotonin only has 5 building blocks, you guys. One of them is a hormone that I get when I take my little complicated houseplant outside. What is it? Who knows what the hormone's called? What if I call it a vitamin? See? Look at that. Because we call it a vitamin, we know what it is. You can't make vitamins. You can make hormones. Vitamin D is a hormone that you make on your own when you take your meat suit outside and expose the fleshy parts to the sun. If you put sunscreen on, you're not making any vitamin D today. You just block the very UVB rays that your body needs to make vitamin D. If you put sunglasses on, your body now thinks it's cloudy and you'll burn faster because you're not wearing sunscreen, but you have sunglasses on. So this is what I want. I want a little time outside every day. Not all of the time. I'm not asking you to move your office outside and get skin cancer because you're burning every day. That'd be weird. I'm asking you for a 10-minute walk, maybe a 20-minute walk outside every day to get vitamin D, which will help you get more serotonin because it's one of the 5 building blocks you need to make it, and that's going to help you get melatonin, which helps you sleep better. Stop going to Walgreens for synthetic melatonin and start going outside more. Watch what happens. We all know what happens when we spend the day on the boat. Why don't we just take a walk at lunch and see if that doesn't make our sleep better? And since we're not drinking so damn much caffeine, maybe we can actually fall asleep tonight. Guys, what you do today matters for how you're going to sleep tonight. And I know I'm locking you in a cage all day to listen to me, and you're wasting some of the morning when you could be outside. But when it's lunchtime, I encourage you guys all to get out there. Let's take a walk outside before you put food in your body, because that's the signaling that your body is looking for, movement then food. And if you're outside doing it, you get a bunch of vitamin D. And I'll tell you how powerful this is. 10 minutes of direct sunshine on my completely naked body in Southern California gets me arrested every single time. I have stories. But it also gets me all the vitamin D I could possibly use for the day, and it's equivalent to eating 4 pounds of salmon. It's equivalent to 30 cups of fortified orange juice. That's how much vitamin D we make when we take our meat suit outside. 10 minutes a day is not even going to make you tan, much less burn. So you're not increasing skin cancer risk. As a matter of fact, there are studies right now that show high levels of vitamin D are cancer protective in humans, because vitamin D doesn't only act as a building block for serotonin. Vitamin D acts as an immune modulator. If you guys have not looked at the role of vitamin D, it helps put calcium into your bones, it helps with your skin, it helps with the immune system immensely. That's its primary job, is immune modulation. And it's a primary building block to the happy juice that makes you vibrant and alive and productive and makes you fun to be around. How many of you guys have experienced seasonal affective disorder because you stopped going outside part of the year? Some folks have. Guys, we combat that by making sure we supplement our food with appropriate amounts of vitamin D in the winter. And this is how nature works, you guys. In places that didn't get a bunch of sun, they would be eating more fatty animals in the winter, and vitamin D is locked up in the fat of cold weather animals. As a matter of fact, if you're buying vitamin D capsules and it's not synthetic vitamin D, it's coming from cod. It's coming from the liver of a cold water fish. So we know that. That's how it used to work. And now it's like, eat grains all year long and never go outside or you're going to burn your skin off. That's the worst advice ever. More time outside. If you're going to be out golfing all day, by all means, cover up, put a long sleeve. You guys know when this wears off? It doesn't. I have to take it off. Do you know when sunscreen wears off? Yeah. If you're not in the ocean, if you're not on salt, right? It may be less than 90 minutes. I don't know. I've got way too much ink on this body to risk it. So I go out, I never use sunscreen. It is rare that I put sunscreen on. I put wide brim hats and long sleeve rash guards when I'm ready to not be exposed to the sun anymore, because it's safer, because it never wears off. So I don't want to burn or tan either. I want to make sure I get an appropriate amount of sunshine on a daily basis. And usually that just means taking the dogs for a walk. That's it. Just go take the dogs for a walk at noon every day if you're working from home. If you're not, bring your dogs into the office and tell them that I said so. And then go for a walk with your dog at noon every day. It's a great excuse. Go walk with friends outside at lunch. That's all we're asking for. Watch if it affects your sleep, because it probably will. Fair? Here's your trackers. Oh, this is how we combat seasonal affective, by the way. Seasonal affective disorder. We put a happy light, combine it with vitamin D. Light therapy with vitamin D supplementation in the winter, and seasonal affective disorder is almost completely gone. That's all we need. Light and some vitamin D. I would encourage you guys to go to your doctor and get a vitamin D test. And if your vitamin D is low, let's get it up as fast as we can, because it's that important. It's very important for your immune response. Okay, I'm wearing the Oura ring as a tracker. You guys, if you have not seen the rings, these things are amazing. They don't get caught in people's hair that are sleeping in bed with you. Okay, I don't wear the watch because Penelope sleeps on this side and it would keep getting snagged in her hair. So we found the rings. We're like, this is what we're doing. The Oura ring tracks my steps, tracks my heart rate variability, looks at my skin temperature all night long, and tracks my sleep patterns, all while sitting on my finger and only needing to be charged 3 hours a week. So I like this as a tracker. You can use the Fitbit or the Garmin products or the Apple Watch, or you can download the app on the left side of your screen for $0. The Sleep Cycle alarm clock will track your sleep by using the sophisticated microphones in your phone and listen to you sleep all night long, just like the NSA does. Isn't that right, NSA? And it'll give you a graph of how you slept based on your noise that you're making when you're sleeping. So it's a free tool, or you can do something that costs a little bit more money if you're looking to track your sleep. All right, let's push on to water. You are 65% water by volume, so take your weight, take the size of your body, and then multiply by 65%, because that's how much is water. If I said, what do you drink to replace that water, what would your answer be? Yeah, not bourbon. Isn't that weird how that works? It's not beer. It's not bourbon. It's water. If I put you back outside where you came from, you would only drink water because that's all she ever provided. Now, humans at some point realized we were getting really sick from water that we couldn't filter because we didn't have that kind of technology. So we would start making beer and wine. So you'll hear a lot of old stories of beer and wine, but it wasn't the super high alcohol stuff that we're drinking now. It's very low alcohol fermented products because it was safer than drinking the water in some areas. So I get that, but it was not the same stuff that we're drinking today. So it was different. 75% of your brain is water. And we drink 16 ounces a day. That's sad. I'm going to encourage you to start drinking more water, and your cells will be happier for it. They will flush some of the extra water they might be hanging on to. Your mitochondria will be able to make more energy because they're getting the hydrogen and the oxygen that they require for energy. We'd like to get you up to about 100 ounces of water a day. It's 3 liters. If you're buying the Yeti things that have a liter capacity, get 3 of those filled up throughout the course of your day. You have 16 hours to do this. That is not out of line at all. 16 hours to drink 3 liters, that's nothing. Now, if you're saying that's hard, yeah, maybe just do some things that make you sweat more then. Do some things that make you thirsty. I start my day with 45 minutes in the sauna. How much water do you think I'm going to have to drink after 45 minutes in the sauna every morning? The correct answer is 1 liter. I drink 1 liter of water in the morning while I sauna, and then I'll shower and make coffee. Because heat and light wake you up the fastest. I got that going on in my sauna. Water is a great way to get energy, and it costs no money. If you have a great filter in your home, you don't have to buy bottled water, so it's free. And then I'll put coffee in. I only need 1 cup when I do that. I drink 2 cups when I don't have that available when I'm traveling. Not that big of a deal. Drink more water. Inflammation goes down. Blood pressure goes down. You're less hungry when you drink more water. It's fascinating how this affects our digestive system. Your skin looks better. Your brain functions better. There's no negative to drinking 3 liters of water unless you try to guzzle it all at once. Don't do that. You guys all know that, right? Here are the 5 things that we typically put in our water that don't do us any favors. I'm not saying never drink these things. I'm saying they don't help, so don't count them. The big 3 are sugar, alcohol, and caffeine. Those are the big ones. If you have sugar, alcohol, and caffeine in your drink in the morning, I'm going to ask you, why are you drinking Bailey's in your coffee in the morning, right? Alcohol shouldn't be in your morning coffee. But if you are drinking sugar and caffeine in there, just don't count it. It doesn't go towards your 3 liters today. If there's salt in there or synthetic sweeteners, you don't need those in your liquids either. Stop it. You don't need synthetic sweeteners. Diet sodas are doing a lot of harm to the pancreas, and no one's talking about it. They're also hurting the brain because you can't process some of the chlorine molecule that gets cleaved off when we're processing some of those synthetic sweeteners as a human. It's that easy. If you have a decaf hibiscus tea, that's water because none of the 5 are in there. If you have a decaf regular green tea, if it's decaffeinated, you're good. If you have decaf coffee, you guys, that's probably going to work just like water. Just make sure it's a really high quality decaf. Maybe you're drinking a bubbly water because you like some of the texture in your water. So if I have a LaCroix, we pronounce it LaCroix because we're all bougie up where I live. If you have a LaCroix or a Topo Chico or something with some bubbles, great. As long as you're drinking more water, that's okay. I don't want all your water to be bubbled. But for me, I drink regular room temperature water during the day, and then I switch to some bubbly water at night because I like the texture. Keeps me away from the soda. Hey, it's that simple. Just ask yourself, what would I do if I was outside? Heck, just ask yourself, what am I giving my dog? And if you're giving your dog Diet Coke every day because you know it's not going to kill it, do you guys know Diet Coke won't kill your dog? But do you know it's not healthy for your dog? Do you know it's not going to kill you? But it's not healthy for you, but we drink it anyway because we can't see the immediate consequences. We're weird like that. As if it's not good for your dog, it's probably not good for you. Okay? If you give your dog wine every night to wind it down because it had a long dog day, then maybe have a glass of wine with your animal. And if you're not doing that daily, maybe we just chill out just a little bit with some of this stuff and focus primarily on water. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to pay attention. If you write some of this stuff down, we're going to do way better. I already talked about caffeine. Let's talk about liquid sugar. There is no liquid sugar in nature. Never has been. Not for humans. If you can think of one, let me know, because it's not honey. Honey is in a waxy hive. You will eat the wax. And it's not maple syrup. You have to boil that down. That's 40-to-1 ratio coming out of the tree, and you have to boil it to get syrup. So it's not those two. If you can think of something else that's liquid sugar out there, let me know. Because there isn't one. There never has been one. And there's magic in knowing this. When you chew your food, you create saliva. And in your saliva, there's an enzyme that you learned about in 7th grade science class called amylase. Amylase has one function and one function only, and that is to break down sugar. It only occurs in your mouth. There's nothing south of here that has amylase. So if you don't chew your sugar, there's no enzyme to break that sugar down, and it hits your belly with no enzyme, and then the liver has to do all of the work. The diseases we see manifest when people are drinking liquid sugar every day, like my mother, are prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And if you guys haven't seen the statistics from the NIH on how many Americans are affected by diabetes and liver disease, right now, it's about 60%. Look around the room. 60% of you, if you're not paying attention, probably have some form of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or prediabetes or diabetes itself. 80% are undiagnosed. And if we look at that number in children, it's 20%. 20% of American children today are affected with diseases that are going to kill them before they're 50. It's so expensive to treat diabetes that we don't know how we're going to do it in 2030. Because 100 million Americans will have full-blown diabetes by 2030, and it costs $14,000 a year to manage that disease. How is our health? Somebody do that math. 100 million times 14,000? Where's that money coming from? Because we don't have it. And that's what's going to happen if we don't start paying attention. And that's not including the Alzheimer's that's right behind that. Liquid sugar for you as an adult should be about 10 grams a day. That's the drinkable stuff, not the chewable stuff. You can chew as much sugar as you want. If it's from nature, she's got some ways to stop you from hurting yourself. 10 grams a day is a GT's kombucha. It's not a Starbucks. That Trenti Frappuccino is about 70. Those sodas are about 50. And the juices that you were told were healthy for your kids, there's 6 apples in that apple juice. Who's ever eaten 6 apples in one sitting? You're laughing because no one's done it. Because the fiber, when you're done with that event, you'll take the rest of the afternoon off. How long does it take you to eat 6 apples? Forever because of the chewing. But yet we give our kids that stuff and we think, it's good for them. We were told that. Apples are good for your children. Apple juice is killing their liver and their pancreas. It's out of context. Like, it's 4 times your threshold. We give them 2 or 3 of those a day. It's insane to me. Guys, fruit is healthy for kids. Fruit juice is garbage for anyone. We should not be doing that. It is wholly not natural. When nature gave you sugar, she gave you 3 things. You might want to write these down the next time you see sugar. If you don't have all 3 of these, stop eating it because it's going to hurt. Nature gave you fiber, which made you chew, and there's always water. And you can go outside and test that hypothesis anytime you want to. Walk outside, find sugar. Because the more sugar she put in it, the more fiber, water, and chewing she put in it. The highest sugar plants that we're turning into granulated sugar are sugar cane, and how much fiber is in that thing? You can't even eat it, there's so much fiber. Tons of chewing. Or sugar beets. I grew up in sugar beet country in North Dakota. Sugar beets. You guys, have you ever had a beet from your garden? There's so much fiber in those things, it takes forever to chew them. They make a mess on your hands. I love beets. And there's a ton of sugar, but man, there's a lot of chewing and there's a lot of fiber. That's what nature's done. She's had billions of years to figure this out. You guys, we're fairly new. We're new on this thing. She's done this forever. When there's sugar, there's fiber, water, and chewing. Ask yourself if the bread at McDonald's has any of those 3 things. Does McDonald's bread have fiber? 0. Does it have water? Nope. Does it have chewing? Very little. It's super soft. That's the oil. They make it super soft because they want it to be really palatable. So that bread is going to affect your body in a way that's completely different than maybe the sourdough bread that you made at home. Because that sourdough bread, if you use the right flour, has tons of protein, which it'll have tons of fiber, and it's going to make you chew it. Have you guys ever had sourdough bread? Man, you got to chew the heck out of that stuff. The only thing it's missing is water. Well, I'll take that all day long because I put a boatload of fiber in there, or protein. So we can do some of this stuff. Bread's not bad, but the liquid stuff, killing you. Absolutely, positively stop it. It's ridiculous. If you have soda machines at work and you're going to put in a wellness program, you're not going to put in a wellness program with soda machines. You're just lying to yourself. This is a machine that's selling death and destruction to you and your employees, and then you're going to try to educate them not to drink it. Good luck. Because if I'm in a place all day long that has donuts and soda, I will eventually start eating donuts and soda. Guys, get the liquid sugar out of your diet. All I can tell you is it's very, very important that we do this, especially for kids. No more chocolate milk. There's way too much sugar in that stuff. No more juice. If you want calcium for your kids, let's find a way to get them to eat broccoli and leafy green vegetables. There's way more calcium in there. Get them outside playing in the dirt like we used to. It's way better for us. This is healthy 20-year-old males. They give them 1 soda per day. This was in a metabolic ward. They actually stabilized their diet so that these people were all eating the exact same thing. These are healthy 20-year-old males. One group got 1 soda per day, a 12-ounce sugary beverage. And in 3 weeks, they had to stop the study because the C-reactive protein, an inflammatory marker that they look for in the blood, had doubled in just 3 weeks. What do you think that's doing to your 9-year-old when you give them 3 apple juices a day? And then tell them to sit down and shut up and pay attention in class for 8 hours. Good luck. Guys, all we have to do is stop with the liquid sugar. We can have the chewable stuff. We're going to be fine there. Look at all that chewable sugar. Food should be so easy. Food would be easy if I just turned the power off, wouldn't it? Guys, have you ever watched the History Channel reality show called Alone? Can I give you a homework assignment if you've never watched that show? Go watch season 1 of History Channel's Alone. The reason I wanted to watch that is you will see people in a contest. They put 10 people above the Arctic Circle in Canada, and they say, survive out here alone for as long as you can. And they give them cameras to record their adventures alone. This isn't scripted, and there's no crew around them. They're isolated and alone at least 5 miles away from the nearest human, and whoever survives the longest gets $500,000. But they're never told if they're the longest surviving one or not. They just have to keep going until a helicopter comes, picks them up, and says, you win. And you will find just how hard it is to find food outside, especially when it's cold outside. More people have to be pulled from that program because their weight drops so much so that the doctors tell them it's going to be dangerous. If they stay out there, they might die. We will starve to death when we're outside alone in the cold area before most of us will ever succeed. Food is hard and it requires energy to go get. Way more when it's cold than when it's warm, right? They can't do that reality program in the Costa Rican jungle because people would just sit there and like, hey, look, there's food everywhere. We're going to be fine. So I want you to keep in mind, seasonal variability with food is a real thing, and it really does matter because the position of the sun matters as well. I'm going to make food simple, though. What would you eat if I turned the power off and you still lived here? Yeah, I know for the first 6 months we'll have all the food you could imagine, but in 6 months without power, the food supply that's stored will run out. Now what are we going to eat? What would you eat in February here in Missouri? What would you eat? If I just put you outside, it's February, let's say it's 1,000 years ago, what would you eat? You'd probably shoot something in the face, wouldn't you? Right? Something's got to die today. It's going to be either an animal or a plant. Isn't that how that works? If you're in the Costa Rican jungle, you're probably going to eat what? As your primary diet, you're in the Costa Rican jungle, what's your primary diet? Fruit. Why? Because they're everywhere. And you're going to want to take this note. This is one of the most important things anyone will ever say about food, and we forgot. Plants are incredibly easy to sneak up on. They're the only thing out there that's slower than you. So if they're there, eat them. There's less effort required to have food. If there are no plants, you stab something in the face or you die. That's how this works. You eat plants and animals. There's a giant list. I'll give you the giant list. We'll do this real quick for you on the screen. Now, I'm going to put them in kind of the relative categories, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. But let me give you a couple of secrets before I put the foods up here. If you are trying to weigh less, I will ask you every single meal, where is your protein? And I want 50 grams of protein on that plate at every meal. Throw 50 grams of protein front and center, and then fill the rest of that plate with some sort of fibrous vegetable. And you watch what happens in 90 days to your weight without even trying, without measuring calories, without measuring portions, because you guys suck at those things and you know you do. If portion control was easy, we'd all be thin and fit. It's not. It's hard. You're not programmed to measure portions. You're programmed when you see food, shove it in there, don't move. That's how you're programmed. If you don't believe me, watch your dog. Your dog is programmed the same way. Give your dog steak every day and see if it moderates calories. I want to watch. Send me the videos. It's fun. Okay? It's expensive, though. Here's food. This is the food that you could find 1,000 years ago. Plants first, because they're slow. Guys, always prioritize plants. If it's sunny and warm, prioritize plants. And if it's not plants, then it's animals. Done. That's food. That's food. Anything on that list, any way you want to combine it, shove it on your plate. Good luck to you. That's food. It's plants or animals or the eggs of the animal. I don't care if you have eggs. Go ahead. Heck, I don't even care if you guys have dairy. I'd prefer you don't have breast milk from a 1,600-pound animal unless you're trying to weigh 1,600 pounds. I'd prefer you don't do that, but you can. It's not that bad. Where's the donuts, Dan? There's no donut migration through the central plains of Iowa. I was just up there. I looked. Have you guys ever seen the wild Doritos when they dip themselves in the Cool Ranch? You guys, if you don't know, those wild Doritos weigh 900 pounds. They're 900-pound triangles that migrate one day a year through Iowa, and I was up there looking for them, didn't find them. So if you're eating stuff that looks like food that's being sold to you in a box or a bag, it's probably not food. It's better than starving to death, I get it, but none of you guys are in danger of that. So let's prioritize plants and animals. I got 3 words that go with this. Are you ready? Local, seasonal, and as organic as your wallet will allow. I don't have to buy organic, but if you got the money, let's do it. That's a vote for less chemicals. The more we vote for less chemicals, the less chemicals they're going to use. Local, organic, seasonal. Done. Plants and animals. More plants in the summer, more animals in the winter. All we do in the winter where we live in Minnesota is we take out the fruit and we do less root vegetables. That's all we do. That's all we change in our diet. Fruit goes away because there's no fruit in Minnesota in February. It's snowing sideways in -40. So we just act accordingly. A lot more high-fat animals in the winter, lower-fat animals because we're adding the fruit back in the summer. Not that difficult to understand, but it's really difficult to do because when I go to the airport, I'm going to encounter something unique. I'm going to encounter Auntie Annie's pretzels. Have you guys had them? Oh my God. They're not wild. They're made of something so delicious. This is no joke. Your insulin spikes just smelling that place. Just walking by and smelling it, your body is preparing to eat. That's magic. When do I eat that? When does Dan get pretzel dogs and cinnamon pretzel bites and backpack-sized lemonades? When does Dan get to do that? Do you guys know when I do that? Whenever I want to. Realizing that the minute I put that bite in, I'm in trouble because I'm not going to be able to stop. So when it's time to eat pretzels, eat them like a professional and eat all of the pretzels. Do it rarely. We call this feasting in our house. We feast 2 days a month. There are no rules with food for 2 days a month. That's when we eat all this stuff in red. Corn, wheat, sugar, deep fried foods, donuts. Not that these are bad foods. It's just they don't regulate calories for you. Guys, how many of you can eat? Be honest with me. Not want to, but how many of you can eat 4 donuts? It's pretty easy. That's 2,000 calories, and you didn't have to work at it. It's just 2,000 calories, and they're in there. 2 hours later, I'm hungry again. If food was just fuel, I shouldn't be hungry the rest of the day. I just ate 2,000 calories. It's not how this thing works. This thing is looking for minerals and micronutrients and vitamins. And if my food doesn't have any, it's going to tell me to keep eating because it didn't get any of the stuff it needs to make a new Dan. That overconsumption is easy when we're eating stuff that's not even real food. So when it's time to eat stuff that's not real food, shove it all in there. It's time to eat that stuff. Just don't do it every day, and don't think you'll be successful if you bring it in the house because you will fail. I guarantee it. All of us do. The failure rate on all diets is 97% at 5 years or less. Most diets don't last a year. It's crazy because we're trying to put this stuff in our house and think that we're going to be successful in moderating, regulating our own bodies, and we're not. Guys, I dare you, and I would love the video. I dare you. Some guy did this. I have his video. It's hilarious. One of these days, I'll play it for someone. I want to watch you eat 2,000 calories of carrots in one sitting. Because it's 10.5 pounds and it's humanly impossible. So a guy tried it. He worked for a lumber association in California. He goes, I'm going to prove you wrong. So he tries it. He videotapes the whole thing. An hour and a half later, he had to stop because his wife thought she was going to have to take him to the emergency room because his jaw started to lock up. Turns out you can't eat carrots for an hour and a half without some jaw problems. Okay? He got to 2.25 pounds. That's a good effort. That was only 500 calories. Guys, carrots self-regulate caloric intake for you. So do raspberries. By the way, he had to take 3 days off of work. Does anyone know why? I did not get this video. But that's what fiber will do to you when you eat 2.25 pounds of it in one sitting. Remember, when nature gave you plants, and the plants come in fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, she gave you fiber and water and chewing. And heck, those nuts and seeds, they regulate calories for you if you buy them with a shell on them. I want to watch you eat 2,000 calories of pistachios and not have thumbnails broken completely off and bloody by the time you're done. When nuts and seeds are in the shell, it's hard to hurt yourself. The fruits, vegetables, and legumes, good luck. That fiber will get in your way before you ever hurt yourself with them. I just encourage you, if it's winter time, take the fruit out of your diet. It's weird. That's it. It's that simple. It's simple, but it's not easy because we have Auntie Annie's pretzels and Burger King and Chick-fil-A. Oh my God, Chick-fil-A? Right? That's like crack where I come from. I still haven't had it. I've never had Chick-fil-A chicken. But they opened one in North Dakota where my kids live. They still live in Bismarck. And there was a line 3.5 miles long to get chicken, right? Because I don't know what they're putting in it because I've never had it, but do you think that's normal to have deep fried protein with breading on it? Can I find that outside? No. So when it's time to eat fried chicken, eat all the fried chicken. Do it rarely. We take 2 days a month to do whatever we want with food because I want to have a good emotional relationship with this food. I want pizza. But what we find is if I have pizza every weekend, Dan gets bigger than he should be because the fuel keeps stacking on, and I can't possibly out-exercise a bad diet. Don't even try it. Fix the food. I give you permission to eat any animal, any plant that you could find in your garden, any animal that you could ever find. Put that on your plate, prioritize protein and fiber, and watch what happens to weight loss. It becomes automatic because these calories self-regulate. Protein fills you up faster than any other nutrients on the board here. The more protein on your plate, the less volume of food you will eat, calorically speaking. The more fiber that's in your plants, the less volume of food you will eat, calorically speaking. Prioritize protein, prioritize fiber, eat plants and animals, as local and seasonal as you can afford, buy organic whenever possible, done. And then 2 days a week, let's take the kids to McDonald's and have breakfast for dinner, or whatever you guys want to do. Rarely, but we feast. We enjoy that. It's not a cheat meal, you guys. There's no guilt with food when people are starving to death. You should never feel guilty for eating a muffin. A muffin. You were sold that as health food. Muffins are healthy? Muffins are birthday cake without the frosting, you guys. That's all they are. And then we deep fry those and call them donuts. It's the same stuff, right? Bagels are just a variation of that as well. If you guys have ever looked at the ingredients on bagels and birthday cake, kind of the same thing. So maybe I leave some of that nonsense alone most of the time. And instead of going to Starbucks for dinner, maybe I just delay feeding a little bit and I don't eat my first meal until lunch. Let's see how that works. That's how humans used to do it. That's why intermittent fasting works so well for people. I'm going to give you the second secret to longevity, and I'm going to remind you of the first. The first secret that no one talks about: make sure you are connected to a tribe where you are needed, valued, loved, and important. That is the first secret to living a long, healthy life. The second secret is quit eating so damn much food. You live in a body that if you don't feed it, it'll eat itself. And it never eats the strong, it eats the weak first. You can see this in any natural system. Let's simply step outside and put food pressure on the deer. The weak deer die first. Let's put food pressure on the wolves. The weak wolves die first. Well, if I put food pressure on my cellular system, the weak cells die first. My body actually eats itself. It picks on the weak, kills them, uses the spare parts to make new healthy me, and eliminates the rest. And I can do that by shortening my feeding window to about 8 hours. That means whenever first bite goes in, last bite happens about 8 hours later. I just talked to a gentleman who has been doing this for 3 months. He's still eating some garbage in his feeding window, but what he told me is I can be a lot more flexible in falling off of my program when I shorten my feeding window and still maintain the same weight. If you want a little more flexibility in what you eat, shorten your feeding window to about 8 hours. My feeding window is typically 1 to 7. I go with a 6-hour window because it feels better for me. But if somebody invites me out to dinner at 8 o'clock, I'm not going to look at them and go, no, my feeding window closed. Like, I'm not dumb. That's free food. And it's going to be steak and lobster if somebody invites me out to dinner. So I will eat at 8 o'clock. So sometimes I violate that window. No big deal. But I'll go to the gym right around 11, stay there for a couple hours when I'm home, and then food happens right after the exercise. Because that makes the most sense for my schedule. I don't eat food in the morning. I don't need to. That's when my body is eating its own fat, and I'm drinking copious amounts of water, so I'm rarely hungry. Try it. See what happens. You guys, every single longevity expert on the planet will say the exact same thing. Eat 2 meals in an 8-hour window if you want to live longer. That's every one of them. And we've been doing that for millennia as humans when we lived outside. And then somewhere along the lines, a cereal company told you breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and we believe that lie. You guys know that was made up by a cereal company, don't you? Am I telling you that for the first time? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day was to sell humans cereal. Guys, go back to bacon and eggs like you see on the screen. There's no wild cereal. I have yet to see wild Twizzlers. So when you open that bag of Twizzlers, eat them all. Do it rarely. Simple. If it's donut day, you guys, if it's donut day, if you hang out with me at all and you watch me eat donuts, first of all, knock it off. These are my donuts. You go get your own. But Penelope makes a crunchy face at me when I have donuts because I eat 8 donuts when it's donut day. But I do donuts about once every 6 months. So just to keep a good emotional relationship with donuts, because we have to, right? I look at most food as feeding the body and some food is feeding the soul. That soul food happens on occasion because it's awesome. Because I live here. I don't have to do the feasts. I choose to so I can say I get brownies whenever I want them. I just don't want them every day. Is that fair? Okay. Exercise works like this. Oh, look at that. I put alcohol on there. The forbidden alcohol. Never drink it ever. That'd be good advice, wouldn't it? Especially coming from me, an alcoholic father who died at 50-something years old. How about we just realize what alcohol is and then you choose what you do with it? Alcohol is a toxic poison that kills 1 out of every 20 people you will ever meet in your life. It causes, not contributes to, it causes 200 types of cancer. So how about you just recognize that it's that? Look around the room, 1 in 20 of you, statistically speaking, will die as a direct result of alcohol, probably from one of the cancers it causes. That's scary as hell. So when I'm drinking, I know what I got in my hand. The bourbon, if you're drinking 2 fingers, they go this way, not that way. Okay? 1 small glass of wine, not the bottle-sized glass that we laugh about when we see it. Just do a little less of that, you guys. Buy the expensive stuff, do it less often. If you're drinking because you love the flavor, good. If you're drinking because you like the feeling, let's get you some help. We shouldn't need the feeling for alcohol. We should drink it because somebody put art in a bottle for us to taste. So just approach that with a little bit more caution. I'm not going to tell you what is a good threshold. You decide. 0 is a good threshold, but you decide if it's more than that. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Okay? Nature says if you want food, you got to go get it. And if it's plants, you can go get it quite slowly, can't you? Okay, I don't know if you guys have ever played tag with a tree, but it's a really easy way to win a game of tag because they don't run very fast at all. Okay, but if you're going to play tag with a cheetah, there's going to be some really, really weird stuff going on because they don't play tag very nicely. So we're going to forage for our food. And what we do when we forage for our food is we use this made-up number from a Japanese marketing company that was used to sell pedometers in 1960. That's where that number comes from. It is not a real number from science. It's made up to sell pedometers in 1960, and we're still using it. Who's a competitive person that has to close the ring on their Apple Watch and get the 10,000 steps? See? It's a made-up number, but I'll tell you why I like it. Because it works. It works really well. The average American moves 3,000 steps a day. Can you imagine if I tripled it, what we do to their weight loss? This is weight loss. Move more. And what I mean by that is move more. I'm going to show you something really cool for workplace injuries. Because a lot of people worry about workplace injuries. Watch this. This is a live event happening right in front of your eyes. Stand up for me. Okay, take a look at this fine specimen of human. Where is his upper body hitting gravity? How is he touching the earth? At his feet, in between his upper body and gravity, is hip joint, a knee joint, an ankle joint on each side, plus big muscles in the legs, big muscles in the back of the legs. So his upper body is supported by joints and muscles. Now, where is his body hitting the earth? on his butt. What big muscles are taking the weight of his upper body? There are none. The small muscles in his lower back have to do a bunch of work. The number one workplace injury is lower back injury because we are always sitting down. He's going to have less of it. Stay standing for a second because I want to show you something else that's cool about him standing up. When he stood up, I tripled the amount of calories he's burning. Tripled it. So if you want to lose weight, stand up more. Now, he doesn't have to walk, but I guarantee if I leave him standing there for another hour, he's going to do what I've been doing and start doing this, shifting your weight. Moving. Look, I just took a step. I just took another step. I just took another step. I just took another one right there. I've been doing that this whole time. Guys, if I look at my Oura ring, I've gotten 4,800 steps already today, and I haven't gone anywhere. You can go ahead and sit down. In less than half a day, I'm halfway to my 10,000 steps by standing up. So this is magic. Forage daily. This is daily. I want 10,000 steps at a minimum, and if you say you can't, you're right, so let's get that word out of your vocabulary. I will do this because I need to. I have to. Your hunter-gatherer ancestors that lived outside would get an average of 28,000 steps a day just to get food. Stand up, get a standing desk at work. Here's what Stanford Laboratory will tell you. Stand up for half an hour, sit down for half an hour, stand up for half an hour, sit down for half an hour, and repeat that throughout the course of your 8-hour workday, and then go home, and you'll have almost 10,000 steps before you go there. I love it. It's great advice. It's good to get the pressure off your lower back. It's good to develop extra leg muscles because in your age, if your leg muscles aren't strong, you will be more likely to fall. And if you're 78 years old or older in this country, falling is one of the most deadly things that can ever happen to you. That's crazy to know that. So let's get your leg muscles developed. Awesome. Foraging strategies can include biking around the lake with your grandchildren, getting on the paddleboard and going for a nice slow paddleboard. Walking your dog is a foraging strategy. No speed required, and you don't have to pick up anything heavy. However, if you are standing in front of the mirror and you're curling stuff, that is a foraging strategy. It's not speed, you're foraging. I like yoga for this. Throw in some stretchy, bendy stuff once a week, because if I can pick up my leg, that's weird when I'm on the stage with a heel on. I don't wear heels normally. If I can pick up my leg and leave it there and just keep leaving it there because I'm okay with balance, I'm more likely to age effectively because I'm less likely to fall. That's amazing. Go join a yoga class as part of a foraging strategy. That's important. Get some variety in that and make sure it's fun. But while you're at work most of the day, get a standing desk and stop complaining about how hard it is. It's not that hard. And then we're going to hunt on occasion. Hunting, you guys want to watch hunting? Hunting is amazing to watch if you watch a lion. But hunting is amazing to watch in humans if you watch a 4-year-old play outside. Some of you guys in here, please don't go to a park and watch 4-year-olds play outside, okay? That's going to be creepy. But if you have kids, watch your kids play outside because none of them are checking their heart rate. Lions don't do that either. They're not like, oh, almost there, 45 more minutes, and then I get my gazelle. Stop looking at heart rate. Play outside. On occasion, burst, rest, burst, rest. You know what we call this? Tennis, basketball, Peloton, Tabata workouts, high-intensity interval training. We call this jiu-jitsu. We call this taekwondo. We call this boxing. We call this, what, pickleball, maybe a little bit? There's a lot of movement there. I would say maybe golf, but not really. There's too much drinking in golf, let's face it. Okay? Find something that's bursting, where you rest in between. And if you can't do that, something fun outside, then go join a gym, you guys. Get a gym involved. Orange Theory Fitness was the first billion-dollar brand in fitness because they did this with tribal communities, and it works. It works really well. I want 3 of these a week into your regimen if your heart is healthy enough to do so. Go hunt your meat. Fast, violent, explosive, bursting workouts. Anything that says Tabata on it, that's what you want to be doing 3 times a week. This is going to suck. You guys agree? Burpees suck. CrossFit sucks. It hurts. But if people are doing it with you and pushing you to do better, you're going to be better at it. Let's face it, you're a tribal creature that is designed to avoid pain. So if you're going to do something that's going to be painful, go together with a group. You'll be more successful that way. I cannot overstate how important the gym is when you're doing classes. I work so much. You guys, I'm a former Guinness World Record holder. I grew up in the martial arts. I was at the Junior Olympics when I was 17. Like, I can drive this thing. I know what to do here. And I work harder in a class than when I'm alone. We go to a spin class that has a live DJ in front of the room and flashing lights. Like, it's a disco party, and you got to work your butt off to be there. It's amazing. I work harder on that bike than I've ever worked when I was a semi-professional cyclist. Way harder in class, because it's fun, and everyone else that I know is there too. Get a group involved and go do some workouts like this. Tabata's workouts were 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. I can demonstrate the rest sections for you. Oh my God. Oh my God, this sucks. Oh my God. Okay, I'm not going to demonstrate the work sections in these pants because it's going to get weird. Okay, 20 seconds of all-out effort, whether that's sprinting or cycling or swinging a kettlebell. That's my favorite thing to do here. Single-arm kettlebell swings for 20 seconds, a 10-second rest. Repeat on the other side. Tell me if you only need 8 minutes. You don't need much more than 8 minutes of exercise when you're pushing that heavy. Get some friends or a trainer involved to make sure you don't hurt yourself and to take you to the edge. Let's face it, growth happens on the edge. Nobody ever grew other than wider sitting on the couch doing nothing. If you want to grow, you got to push to the edge. That works with your spirituality, your relationships, your intellect, and your physical body as well. Growth hurts, and it always happens on the outside edges. Stop being comfortable all the time, you guys. This thing needs some work. We get better that way. I would encourage you to find an exercise you can do like this. Go to YouTube, and instead of typing in funny cat videos, or, I was going to get political, I won't. You can do a lot of stuff on YouTube. Let's type in body weight Tabata on YouTube. Body weight, that's the name of the gym you carry around with you, and then Dr. Tabata's last name, that's Dr. Izumi Tabata from Japan. You get 400 different exercises from a single YouTube search. Easy. Go find some exercises that look like they're going to be okay for you to do, and go do them with a friend 2 or 3 times a week. Watch what happens. This accelerates weight loss, but that's not our primary goal with this exercise. This is to make your heart and lungs healthier. Use it or lose it. That is a real thing. If you don't push this thing to the edge, it gets weaker every year. And you guys, if you're getting weaker every year and you're only in your 40s or 50s, it's time to wake up. This thing's supposed to last 100 years, and we're getting weak in our 50s? Stop it. Let's keep getting stronger and faster and fitter until we're about 98. Then let it slide and start eating ice cream every day. It's too early if we're in our 40s to do it every day. Dr. Tabata was researching VO2 max. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that, but that's a good test for you to look at for yourself. They will do this at most gyms, or if you got a university that has exercise physiology that they're teaching, you can get a VO2 max test. That's a very important number. I encourage you to do some reading on why. One more concept. I'm at 11:23. I'm going to cover this fast. This anti-fragile concept in science is called hormesis, or hormetic stress. It is a dose-benefit stress relationship between you and something. Okay? The dose down there, the benefit up there, it graphs kind of like this. Okay? This is your muscles. If I give you a small dose of heavy weights, your muscles get bigger. If I give you too much of a dose of heavy weights, your muscles get wrecked or maybe even ripped completely. If I give you a small dose of chicken pox, you get immunity to chicken pox later. If I give you too big of a dose of chicken pox, you can die. The immune system, the bones, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, they all function on this notion of a little bit of chaos introduced on occasion will make the system stronger. Too much chaos and we wreck the system. Right now you guys are sitting at a balmy, moist, 99 degrees on the inside, and if I'm a virus, I'm coming in. I want that to make new virus. Yum. We probably heard about a virus the last couple of years, haven't we? Look, your body's primary response when a foreign invader gets in, whether it's a virus or a bacteria, is to turn up the temperature through a production of a chemical called a pyrogen. The pyrogen response starts locally and then extends through a pyrogen cascade, heating you up to about 101 degrees. If your temperature goes beyond 106, you are a dead human. At 101, your body is trying to kill human invaders, but at 106, you're dead. So it's a fragile curve. But it's an anti-fragile curve because foreign invaders die at 101, and your body does that to itself. What if you could choose the dose? What if you chose to heat yourself up instead of waiting to get sick? What if you, every day, drove your temperature 2 degrees higher in the hot tub or the sauna or by exercising outside? What if you did that to yourself? Well, not only do you have a better opportunity to kill some of the foreign invaders that might be in there, but you also get a really good opportunity to kill the weak cells. Cellular senescence is one of the primary drivers of aging. Senescent cells are cells that aren't doing their job, but they're not quite dead yet. Well, the best way to kill them off is to stop eating so damn much food and let the body eat them, or put some heat pressure on the system and watch how they die. Your body clears them through sweat. Heat the body up on a daily basis, and you also get vasodilation. When your blood vessels get big, more nutrients go to peripheral tissue, including your feet and your brain. Big blood vessels, then when you get out of the hot thing, whether it's a hot tub or a sauna, you cool off and the blood vessels get smaller. You do that again tomorrow, and then they get smaller, and then you do it again tomorrow, and then they get smaller. That leads to what they call vascular compliance. It's kind of like doing yoga for your blood vessels. Every day they go really big, and then they get a chance to cool off. Vascular compliance is directly correlated to less heart attack and stroke. It's not even a weak correlation, it's a strong correlation. If you have more bendy blood vessels, you're less likely to die of heart attack and stroke. And heating your body up daily is a great way to get bendier blood vessels if you're already healthy enough to do so. You also burn calories. Those calories are from sugar, so this lowers glycemic load, assists in weight loss. You get a better mood for about 26 hours. How many of you can tell me right now that you've stepped out of a sauna or a hot tub and felt worse? Or are you always kind of smiling? I love that. So why aren't we doing that every day? Let me show you what happens if you do that every day for 20 years. I'm not going to say, look at me. I'm going to say, look at a study published in the Journal of American Medical Association back in 2015 from Dr. Jari Laukkanen. Dr. Laukkanen took 2,315 patients, and he followed them for 21 years to see how they died versus how they saunaed. You guys, the statistical adjustments here, these numbers were adjusted downward because people who sauna every day ate better, exercised more, and didn't smoke as often as those who didn't sauna at all. This study was published in the most mainstream medical journal on the planet 7 years ago, and no one's talking about it because there isn't a billion-dollar sauna lobby. These are real numbers of real people that aren't dead. He took those who didn't sauna, those who saunaed about 3 times a week for a half an hour, and those who saunaed every day. And this is what he found. Those who saunaed 3 times a week for a half an hour showed a 30% reduction in cardiovascular death after 21 years of follow-up. A 20% reduction in death from anything at all, and a 40% reduction in the occurrence of Alzheimer's. You show me a drug with 40% efficacy against Alzheimer's that has a side effect of, hey, you're going to sweat 3 times this week, so change that shirt. That's the only side effect I've ever seen in sauna studies after looking at meta-analysis after meta-analysis of sauna studies is that sometimes people with cardiovascular issues should talk to their doctor before they go sauna. That's it. Heart rate's going to get up there, so be careful. In those who sauna daily versus those who didn't sauna, he showed a 50% reduction in cardiovascular death, a 40% reduction in death from anything at all, including cancer and stroke, and a 65% reduction in Alzheimer's, 70% reduction in all-cause dementia. The FDA approved a drug last year that has a 3% efficacy against Alzheimer's. Placebo had 4. No joke. They approved the drug anyway. Here's 65 and no one's talking about it. Yeah, it's an observational study. So what? You can't do a placebo-controlled sauna trial. Can you imagine? Am I in the placebo group? I don't know. I'm sweating pretty bad. Like, you can't do it. So all we can do is observational studies. But what's the downside risk of doing this? You're going to get really hot, watch your heart rate go in with a friend. It's more fun that way anyway. Guys, I'm going to encourage you to find a way to sweat every day because it's one of your 3 primary detox pathways. To get stuff out, you get urine, stool, and sweat. And most of us aren't sweating every day, and we need to start right now because it's good for the brain, it's good for weight loss, it's good for the cardiovascular system, and it helps with muscle recovery when we're exercising. Find a way. Spend the money. If you and your partner have been talking about getting a sauna or a hot tub for years, this is the whisper to go do it. Use it daily. Make sure you're not drinking when you go in there, and this is going to be an awesome health tool for your future. I'm going to end with one question. This is one of the biggest questions I can ever ask people is, why did you wake up this morning? Because that's why we really fail, is because we forget why we're even going to do the things that we do. Who's helping you do that stuff, and how long do you want to do it? Can you write those 3 questions down for me? Why did you wake up this morning? How long do you want to go do that thing? And who is assisting you to make sure you can't fail? You put those 3 answers down on a piece of paper for me, and I guarantee you success not only in your health, but in anything you do. And I'm going to share my answers because this is important to me. I woke up this morning. Do you guys realize I was in Waterloo, Iowa yesterday? Do you guys know how to get from Waterloo to Branson? How? You drive. That's right. Or run, right? I wasn't that fast. I drove 7.5 hours to come see you guys. That's insane to me because there's no way to fly here from there. Well, there is, but it's 3 days. I showed up this morning so somebody doesn't die like my dad. That's how important you guys are to me. I don't want you dying like my father of stuff he did himself. And then we blame the disease. How about we take a look at this and go, well, Dan showed up for me. I should do something for me too. I show up every day. I do 125 of these a year so people don't die like my dad. I'm going to do it for 130 years. I'm only 51. I got 79 more years of this to go. And I can name every single person that's helping me, including you guys. You are part of my tribe to hold me accountable because I can't possibly talk about this stuff if I'm not going to do it myself. I have kids. They're 22 and 25. I don't have grandkids yet. My grandkids are holding me accountable. I don't have them yet, but they're holding me accountable from the future to show up for them. Because my kids didn't get that, and I'm not going to take that away from them. My great-grandkids are holding me accountable. Penelope is holding me accountable. I like that. There's no way I can fail. It's too big. It's bigger than me. Tie your existence to something bigger than you, and you'll never fail. A lot of people do that with their religion. I chose to do that with my profession because then I never have to work another day in my life. Guys, you suck at remembering some stuff. I want to show you a real quick example. Bruce, I got 3 minutes, and then it's all you. You suck at remembering the stuff that's not important. Raise your hand if you are married in here. How long have you been married? When is your wedding day? Look how fast that was. Can you identify the difference between a garter snake and a rattlesnake? Instantly answered that question. What did you eat for lunch 6 days ago? You want to think about it? He's got to first figure out what. Look, you guys, he can remember 25 years ago. Remember the day. I bet if I said reflect on that day, you'd know exactly what that felt like, what it looked like. He knows the difference between a garter snake and a rattlesnake. Some stuff for humans, if it's important, because it could be deadly to forget, we will remember. If you don't know the difference between a rattlesnake and a garter snake, it's deadly, so you better remember. And if you don't know your anniversary, it's deadly, so you better remember. But if you don't know what you ate for lunch 6 days ago, who cares? But guess what? That can also be deadly because it's the little things we do every day that add up to what we look like today, right now. So I'm going to ask you to start writing 3 things down that you suck at remembering because they're really not that important in the moment, but they are going to be important 30 years from now. I want you to write these things down because you're already doing them. I just want you to start putting them on paper. And guess what? I made a spreadsheet for you so you don't have to worry about doing this yourself. My spreadsheet changes color based on the numbers you put in. Green means you did it awesome. Red means you better pay attention. First thing is a number. How many hours did you sleep last night? That is important. If it is less than 8, do better. You're already sleeping. Let's just write down how many hours you got. Second thing is another number. It's just another number. How many steps did you take today? If it's less than 10,000, do better. The spreadsheet changes color for you based on the number. And the third thing is a yes or no question, because you're already doing this. I want to know yes or no. Did you eat plants and animals only? Yes or no? If you had goldfish crackers, you're taking a no. I have not seen goldfish crackers in the wild. I've looked. I was in the Peruvian Amazon. We were fishing for piranhas. No goldfish there. Okay? It's 2 numbers and a yes or no. If you look back on your week and you see a bunch of green cells because you got 8 hours of sleep, 10,000 steps, and a bunch of yeses for food, expect health. Expect 1.5 pounds of weight loss if you have to lose weight. Expect less inflammation and expect a better mood. You did the right inputs. If you got a bunch of red cells in your week, stop expecting to be healthy. You're not giving the body the inputs it needs to do so. It's that simple. And you know what? That's what we do in workplace wellness programs. We ask your employees to track their input on a spreadsheet so that we can see what the output's going to look like when they're done. And we give them prizes for doing those awesome things. Because it's fun to see somebody gets a perfect month. All the cells are green. Wow, that's awesome. I'll give you a free day off if you get that and you're part of my program. It's amazing. Guys, I just encourage you to start here. Start by answering the questions of why, who, and how long. Track the 3 things that you're already doing and make sure you at least dial those 3 things in. And then if you want to do more, do more. If you want extra help, get extra help. But this stuff, I've watched a guy lose 69 pounds and come off of 16 medications in 6 months from doing those 3 things very well. And he still got 2 days a month to have a pizza party. I'm going to see if we can do a little bit of Q&A. We don't have a lot of time. Let's do 10 minutes if we have it. Do you guys have any questions? It's okay if you don't have questions. We just met, right? It's all right if you don't. I want you to know that as long as that beautiful woman right there has your email address, yeah, she's looking behind her. You will get a PDF of everything we talked about. You will get a suggested reading list. I will send you links to the tracking documents that you can download and use for whatever you want. I will make sure you have a link to a sauna partner that I have that'll get you one of the best saunas in the world. They're handmade in Kansas City. Beautiful human beings. I know them personally. They can help you out if you're looking for that. I'll make sure you have a link to the DNA test kit as well. All that stuff is coming to her, and then as long as she has your contact information, she'll give it to you. You're also going to get my email address if you guys want to email me anything at all. Okay? I would love to hang out with you and be your tribe member, so there'll be some other links provided as well. My keynote that I do for an hour is on there. If you want to share this with a spouse, you can just have them watch my keynote. All kinds of good stuff is coming for you. All of this stuff is shareable with the world because it's not my program, it's Mother Nature's program, and she just needs to get the word out to the rest of the animals.